The voice of the Utes, Bill Riley, filling in for Sean today. So we are a little late to start this radio show. But happy Friday to you. Congratulations. You made it to your weekend. High five. Giving you a digital high five. If you're watching us on YouTube, you can see me giving you a high five. Showed up, did all the things. Even if you didn't feel like doing the things, you did them. Now you got a weekend ahead with some good weather. Probably hot because we live in the desert and it's July. But hopefully you have something fun planned to hang out with some friends and family. Maybe get out and swing a golf club. Ride a bike, run a trail, hike a peak like Porter does every weekend. So happy Friday. What's going on? Drive with Spence Checketts. It's my name. Porter Larson producing the show. We appreciate you making us a part of your day today and every day right here on ESPN 700. And a lot to get to. Good show ahead. We've got the World Cup final coming up on Sunday between Argentina and Spain. RSL will be back at it next week against LAFC. So MLS getting ready to kick off the second half of their season. Summer League and the NBA. Kind of wrapping up a little bit. Still a few games going on. And we'll talk some Jazz off season. And give you the latest on the dominoes that are still waiting to fall. Namely, LeBron James, who is milking this for all it's worth, as we thought he would. I guess he had a podcast event. I don't know if it was his podcast or Rich Paul's podcast. And everyone's like, oh, he's going to tell us where he's going. And he utilized the live event to be like, hey, I'm an awesome leader, just so you know. And I want to find a place that understands my awesomeness. And until I find a place that gets how awesome I am, I'm not going to choose where to play yet. It's not an exact quote, but that was kind of the vibe. Because that's who he is. He's also very good at basketball. Philly, Golden State, Miami seem to be the front runners as of now. And that's kind of the last big NBA domino to fall in the offseason. NBA will not punish Bam Adebayo for punching Tyler Hero in the face. And we've heard from a lot of different teams and coaches about their pitch to LeBron, because that's kind of the deal. Rich Paul basically said, come to the king, and if you come to the king, you best not miss. Give us the reason why he should play for you. I'm going to guess Cleveland still. The prediction market suddenly like Miami, but we'll kind of see how it goes. The Jazz are in action tonight in the Summer League. Not sure who we will see. Blazers, Jazz, 8:30 Mountain Time. Prime Video. Shout out to our guy Travis Henderson, who was with the Jazz for 30 years and now is with our friends at Prime. 48 days away from Utah football. College football will be here before you know it. Of course, college football media days continue to roll along. The story that broke yesterday that has everybody around the Big 12 talking is that Cody Campbell donated $275,000 to Ken Paxton's Senate bid the day before the Texas Attorney General filed threatened, I should say, to sue the Big 12 should they come at Texas Tech for the Brendan Sorsby stuff. So continues to look really gross, quite frankly, for Texas Tech. So a lot to do. Good show ahead. Our friend Andy Larson from the Salt Lake Tribune will join us. We'll talk some Jazz basketball, some World Cup with Andy on the show today. Was able to catch up with Garth Lagerwey, RSL general manager during the golden years, the Camelot years, as some of us say. Garth ran the Seattle Sounders, was with Atlanta for a while, and now he's just kind of chilling. And we'll catch up with Garth today. Tim McMahon, Band McMahon, covers the Jazz and the NBA for ESPN. And, of course, it is the Open Championship in the world of pro golf at Royal Birkdale in Southport, England. So we will bring on Paul Pugmire today. We'll give you a leaderboard update, let you know what's going on out there. And then Paul will stop by to talk a little PGA Tour and, of course, some local golf as well as the Open Championship. It's a major championship week in the world of golf. Andy Larson, Garth Lagerwey, Tim McMahon, Paul Pugmire, me, Spence Checketts, all of you, the great listeners, and Porter Larson producing the show today. Will you be climbing a peak this weekend?
Probably.
Which one?
Good question.
Hardest climbs have the best views.
This is true.
Yeah.
Usually.
Yep.
Sometimes there's some sleepers in there. I've got a big old list that I'm like, I want to say like 80% through. 150 of the tallest peaks in Utah that are doable in that fashion. So I'll probably knock one of those off, but we'll see.
Did you say 150?
Yeah.
How many peaks do we have?
Thousands.
And you have a list of the 150, hardest ones, highest ones?
It's hard because there are so many peaks that are like literally the same mountain range, right? Like, so yeah, just 150 super notable ones that are above 10,000 feet. That's kind of my parameter. Some are also on private property, and I can't go there. So, that's the thing.
All right. Well, you come from a family of outlaws. Why don't you just go? Why don't you make your ancestors proud?
I mean, I have done that.
Oh, well, don't admit that out loud on the radio.
I mean, I think hopefully there's a statute of limitations on trespassing, but I'll veer away from it now that I'm an adult.
Okay, we're a little late today, so let's just get to Andy. I'll do the read, and then we'll get to Andy. But I do have a question for you before we start the show.
Mm-hmm.
I'm starting to question whether or not people are real or AI.
You mentioned this on Crosstalk.
Yeah, it's a little bit terrifying. So I have to. I don't want to give too many details because in case it gets back to the person, I'll feel bad. But I have to book a certain appointment incrementally.
Mm-hmm.
And the girl who I book with, she's lovely, but we're starting to have very repetitive conversations. So she's like, hey, your appointment is at this time on this day. I need you to move it to this time on this day. And I'm like, yeah, no problem. And then very same thing today. And we've had it 3 times now. It's the same conversation. And I fear now that I've leaned in to try to use and learn how to use chat and Claude and this stuff, that now it's making me question humanity, and I'm quite concerned.
I will say, I do think that there are some people who utilize those things so much that they are like becoming it, or at least merging in a way. I would advise against that. I would say keep your human sovereignty. Don't merge with robots.
Yeah, I can back that message.
But yeah, I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if we were to find out that there are some sort of cyborgs or AI assisted assistants to help with some tasks like that. Some secretaries that are really super realistic robots. That could be a thing.
Yeah, there's some real Skynet is active energy going on for you Gen Xers and Terminator fans. Real quick, check your spam for what we need for the show. There you go.
Okay.
All right, we'll catch a break. Before we do, Andy Larson's going to join us live in studio. Opening tip brought to you by friends at Game Day Men's Health. It is July now, so you've got a good amount of data, namely 6.5 months at your disposal to analyze whether or not you followed up on your New Year's resolution of not gaining weight. Well, maybe, who knows? I'm not judging, but losing weight, getting back in shape, getting in better shape, tightening up, whatever you wanted to do come New Year's. And now that it's summer, it's pool season. Are you still the dad with a shirt on when you go out to the pool? How has your progress been? Well, if you're frustrated with your lack of progress, if you find yourself with lack of energy, if your sex life is not what it used to be, go to Game Day Men's Health. Do step number 1 no matter what. Okay, step number 1 is scheduling a free consultation with zero obligation at GameDayMen'sHealth.com. I go to the office at Cottonwood Heights. There's one out in Bountiful, God's country. GameDayMen'sHealth.com. Do that. Do that right now. Go to GameDayMen'sHealth.com. Free consultation, no obligation. Takes 30 minutes out of your day. You're going to go in there. They're going to take a little bit of blood. And then they're going to sit down with you and go over your levels. And they're going to tell you where you're doing well. They're going to tell you where you might be a little bit deficient. And then they're going to tell you the options that you have with the products they provide that can help where you're deficient. So for me, that was testosterone therapy and then peptides. Those are the 2 products I use with them. And coming up next month, it will be 3 years since I started working with Game Day Men's Health. And all I can tell you is this. I was able to get into the best shape of my life that I've ever been in as an adult about 3 years ago, and I've maintained it 3 years later. So this isn't a magic shot. It's not a magic pill. It's not something that lasts for 2 or 3 weeks. If you follow their program, I go in about every 3 months, and we take blood, and they say, hey, okay, this is looking good, but this is dropping a little bit too. So why don't we look at this and keep it up? And it takes the guesswork out of it. It takes the research out of it. It takes the thinking out of it because they're experts and they're pros. But here's the best piece of news. If you tell them you heard me talking about it on the show, they're knocking 50% off. 50% off your entire membership. This is not a 5% discount code, a 10% one-time discount code. It is half off. The same deal they give me, it makes it really affordable. So go to GameDayMen'sHealth.com right now. Schedule that free consultation. Tell them you heard me talking about it on this radio show, and you get 50% off your entire first-year membership with our friends at Game Day Men's Health. Bryson DeChambeau is melting down, and nothing could make me happier. Andy Larson will join us live in studio on ESPN 700. All right, Open Championship going on. Royal Birkdale in England. We're going to bring in our buddy Paul Pugmire later on to give you an update there. Bryson DeChambeau has won back, but he just melted down. I don't know what happened, but it was really fun to watch because he's a baby. Tim McMahon will join us today. Band McMahon to talk some jazz and some NBA. Speaking of jazz and NBA, once upon a time, our next guest would have talked, and we are going to talk jazz.
Yeah, of course.
But Andy Larson, a svelte, trimmed down Andy Larson is live in studio. What's up, buddy?
Thank you. Good. One of the reasons I left the beat full time is to look at my health a little bit and focus on that. And I, posted those pictures of what do I look like when I started this job and when I looked like when I left. And it's, I'm like Obama or whatever, like with the gray hairs after 8 years in office.
Yeah.
And for me, 12 years in office, it wasn't gray hairs. It was that I had expanded. And so, working on that a little bit.
Yeah, it's funny when, you get the job that you think you wanted all along. And I'm not saying you didn't have a good experience.
Oh, it was a dream job. I mean, I'm not saying it wasn't. It was awesome.
But jobs like that, I think from the outside looking in, people don't fully understand like the grind that it really is covering a team day to day. It's why I always say, if you want to know what's going on with your local team, read your local beat writer, because you guys cover the team in a way no one else does.
Yeah, and we're just closer to the situation. Like, we're talking to Will Hardy literally every day, and players every day, every other day. I mean, it is, you just get to know these guys in such a real way. And what's kind of cool is, especially with this last round of Jazz players, I think they grew to respect us. Like, I think they grew to respect me and Sarah Todd and Ryan Miller and the group of traveling beat writers and kind of what the kind of effort we put into it, and kind of got a good understanding there. So I hope that came out in our coverage a little bit, and looking forward to our new hire, who Jazz Tribune hire that'll come soon.
And we should give a shout out and a big congrats to Ryan.
Yeah.
Really good kid who worked hard on the Jazz beat. Now that Aaron Falk has moved over a seat, Ryan is taking that seat. Good stuff for him.
Yeah, I don't know whether I want to call him a kid because he's like 3 years older than I am.
Yeah, but I'm older than all y'all by far, so I call y'all kids. I'm washed, as they say.
No, but we're really excited that Ryan joined us as he's going to be our sports editor. And look, I've said this to kind of one or two people in the past, but I'll just say it on the airwaves. Like, I think a little bit the Tribune is in the rebuilding phase of the sports section, right? Like we had Kevin leave, we had Bell leave, and we had some really talented. We had, I think, me leave. I think we had some really talented writers and personnel leave, and so now it's about getting kind of new young talent and build up and become what I think can be the best sports section in Utah again.
So, actually, I want to throw something at you. You're smart. You're quick-witted. You ready? In your tenure as the Jazz beat writer, top 5 most engaging personalities, player or coach, like your favorite players or coaches you got to know. Top 5.
Yeah. Great question. I mean, personalities, Jordan Clarkson stands out, right? Like Joe Ingles stands out. Jordan Clarkson, didn't he have a par on this course?
He did.
This week? That's awesome.
He did, yeah.
Probably last week now, but that's awesome. I mean, just such an engaging and authentic human being, Jordan.
Yeah.
Joe Ingles. Tony Jones.
TJ. Little known fact, he actually played in the NBA. I don't think people know that.
Are we only counting players and coaches? I mean, geez. I mean, Will Hardy is the reason why Will Hardy is where he is because he is such an engaging and terrific personality about kind of handling everything all at once, right?
Yeah.
Like he is really, really good at just making you feel like he's your friend, right?
Right.
And that's in a very different way than Quinn did, which was like Quinn was, coming down from up top and directing everything, right?
The terse Quinn Andy moments were my favorite moments of that tenure. I loved it.
Yeah, and look, and I was doing my job and he was doing his job, and he was stressed out and I was stressed out, and so like, yeah, but I wasn't going to back down.
Quinn, how do you limit the turnovers? Don't throw the ball to them. It's like, yes, this rules. I love this.
My favorite one from that was still the Donovan and Rudy have lunch together sometimes.
Together. Yeah.
So good.
Yep. That is chef's kiss for sure. We can leave it there,
okay,
and maybe we'll revisit later on. But since we're with the Jazz stuff, because I want to do World Cup with you, I want to do RSL with you, but we'll save that because we're in the Jazz space. Yeah. Let's just start with your opinion on how to analyze Summer League basketball.
I think, there was actually a good post on this on Twitter that kind of broke down, you got to look at it statistical by each category at once. And by that I mean a guy's 3-point shooting percentage does not matter to me at all because he probably took a grand total of 15 shots over the course of the entire summer league, right? Like, it's just not a big enough sample size. But the number of 3-point shots he took, his ability to get his shot off, I think is really interesting. Ditto with like turnovers, right? Like turnovers to me are, and this is reflected in the data if you look at it, if you study it, because everyone in summer league is pretty bad at basketball relatively to the NBA. You're just going to have more turnovers. You're going to have passes that are completed to Lauri Markkanen next year that will not be completed to Trey Alexander just because they're different kinds of players, right? And so, yeah, look, I think that doesn't really worry me that much about, say, Darren Peterson's performance this summer league. I'm looking at how often they're getting to the rim. I'm looking at whether or not they're able to get off threes. I'm looking to see, are they getting fouled? Are they able to get to the free throw line? Something like AJ DeBonce's done very well. The rebounding numbers do seem to translate. If you can rebound in summer league, you can probably rebound in the NBA at a pretty high level. Assists are a really good sign, and so like that 12 assist game from Darren was a very good sign. And then I'm looking for how you deal with chaos a little bit, and I think Darren Peterson's kind of been up and down with that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the Washington game, of course, everybody was tuned in to watch AJ versus Darren, but Washington had like 3 or 4 other NBA players playing for their summer league team, and you could tell that. And Wojciechowski talked about this after the game. You could tell they had, of course, watched tape, and Steve said this. They have tape on him, and it was a concerted effort to be very physical with Darren and try to knock him off his spots. And, yeah, the results were mixed. He missed a lot of shots. He missed some open shots, but, I just always hesitate to look at summer league basketball and anoint or dismiss. It's just hard to do. But as far as the way Steve has used him, do you think Will's going to use him the same way? Is this your start? Okay.
Yeah,
give me your thoughts.
To me, no, I don't think so. Because I think he showed, frankly, that he's not ready to be a number 1 ball handling guard in the NBA right now. And that's fine because first of all, how many real guards can you say have come into the NBA and are actually ready for that?
At 19 at that.
At 19 in the last 20 years. I mean, I think you can count on one hand. But two, was not that in college, was that in high school, but has not faced this level of ball pressure before and these levels of defenses before. And so, yeah, it makes sense that he would struggle. And really, I don't know that was really the plan for the Jazz anyway, right? Like, it was going to be Keontae at the point. So, yes, I think he makes much more sense for the Jazz next year as an off-ball solution than like as a on-ball, even against second units. I don't love it. I'd rather have him as an off-ball shooting guard in kind of, the Devin Booker mold, if you will.
Yeah, and ultimately it's Will's call, but he thinks he's a ball in hand guy. Darren does.
Yeah.
Right? Because reportedly throughout the process at the Combine and in interviews, that was the message to teams.
Sure. And yeah, so he's saying this, and obviously ball in hand guys have more value in the NBA. And so it makes sense that he would do that. And certainly he, again, was that in high school at an extremely, extremely high level. But there was some wish casting there, right? Like, and I think I think this experience should be really good for him to say, like, okay, yes, you want to be on the ball, but like that means you have to have a stronger handle. That means you have to read blitz, pick and roll situations much better. That means you have to play at an NBA level on the ball, and they're just, I'm not sure that he's at that level yet, which is fine, which is so fine. Like,
of course.
Anyway.
Yeah, at this age, and look, I can just speak for the Jazz fans in my life. They don't want to hear be patient anymore. They're over it. Sure. But like that kind of continues to be the deal, especially because of the Walker Kessler decision. Mm-hmm. And you and I have not spoken since that trade went down. And I can share this on air because he told me he was fine with it. I texted Austin after the trade, and I just asked him, like, how long ago did you get a sense that this may be a possibility? He was very honest. He said, we were going to bring him back. We wanted to bring him back, but it was a value play for us. And that was that.
Yeah. And I think that was reflected by them not accepting the Indiana offer at the trade deadline, right? Like, that was a very good offer. That was 2 first-round picks plus, not long-term salary back. And they turned it down. So, yeah, I think they absolutely envisioned bringing Walker back. But, yeah, at that cap number plus 4 picks, really? I mean, 2 picks and 2 swaps? Like, yeah. It's incredible value. And I am extremely famously a big Walker Kessler fan.
Sure.
I have, the Rookie of the Year vote happened.
Yes,
and,
it did.
And I think he brings tremendous value when you look at the analytics and everything else that on the court. Like, the Jazz will miss him a lot, and they will be significantly worse without him next year.
Yeah.
But I don't love paying him $35 million a year. I just don't.
Yeah.
And in a cap world where you have second apron concerns, and you already are paying Jaren Jackson a lot, you're paying Lowry Markkanen a lot, you're going to have to extend Keontae George. Eventually, you're going to have to extend Darren Peterson and Ace Bailey. The cap situation gets really iffy really quick if you pay Walker Kessler $35 million a year. So, I didn't feel great about that in a vacuum, and then all of a sudden you have the offer of not doing that and getting 4 first round, 2 first and 2 swaps. To me, it was a no-brainer. I think the Jazz absolutely won, and I think a lot of national voices feel that way too.
We got Ron Boone with his Darren Williams Rookie of the Year vote, and Andy Larson with his Walker Kessler. Did you ever think you'd be in a category that's a Trivial Pursuit Jeopardy category with you and Ron Boone in it only?
Was Ron 99-1 because Walker was 98-2?
Ron was the only one who voted Darren over Chris Paul.
I had Kevin Pelton's vote as well for Walker Kessler. Rookie
That's
of the Year,
decent company,
which is good company, right?
Yeah.
Because Kevin and I do see the game really similarly, right? As nerds, so. That he voted that way made me feel a lot better about my vote than if I had just stood alone.
Did Pelton take a job with the team?
Yeah, he did. He's working in the WNBA now, I think, for the Seattle franchise, but I can't remember.
Good for him.
Yeah,
that's cool. Always liked having Kevin on the show. All right, so as you referenced, while I understand the value play from the Jazz perspective.
Houston Comets, Kevin Pelton.
Houston Comets, okay. Well, I understand the value play and the Jazz mindset here. It changes who they are this year. It just does.
Yeah.
DraftKings comes out with their over-unders, and the Jazz are at 34.5, which honestly, even without Walker, seems low to me, but that's 11th in the West. What do you make of it?
Yeah, to me, feels too low by a few wins, and it's funny, if you look at the prediction markets, they kind of feel that way too. It seems like there's probably a lot of upside there, and I wonder if that line does move at some point. But, you look at Jaren Jackson Jr., the way the Jazz played in those 3 games when Jaren Jackson Jr. was healthy. You look at the way they played even without Jaren Jackson Jr. last year, before the last 2 months. I think they should expect to play better than that. And I am extremely worried about the center position. I think you can play Jaren some minutes there and 20 minutes a night and not feel bad about it. I don't think you really want to play Nurkic 30 minutes a night in 2027. But you have Lowry Markkanen, who's still one of the greatest shooters and finishers we have in this game. You have Keontae George, who should, be able to put up a season similar to what he did last year, which was really pretty good. You should be able to see development from Ace Bailey. You have a decent bench of young players that you hope 1 or 2 pop. There are weaknesses, but I don't see, I see depth, and I see a number of solutions for the Jazz to outscore their opponents on a night-to-night basis, right? The rim protection and defense part is the one I'm most worried about, because the Jazz have been awful at that for the last 4 years. But on offense, I think they're going to be really, really good.
Let me ask you about Jackson Hayes. And we had Sarah on after the signing, and she was really, really good with this, dynamite with it. There's a pretty hairy domestic violence incident with Jackson Hayes that no one wants to talk about. And you guys can go look it up. It happened in 2021. It was investigated and cleared by the league. It happened in 21, but in November of 2024, TMZ got the footage. And in the footage, his girlfriend can be heard saying, quote, "I'm not going to let you hit me anymore. What the bleep do I look like, a punching bag?" Then after the video released, the NBA reopened its investigation into Hayes' conduct. When we had Sarah on, she read the NBA policy for domestic abuse incidents word by word. This, by the very letter of the law, is an absolute violation. It doesn't seem to be in lockstep with the way the Jazz as an organization analyzed their signings. Is that fair to say?
Agreed. And I think it's extremely disappointing that they went in that direction. First of all, not first of all. Last of all, Jackson Hayes is not a very good player. So, what are you even doing, right? I would legitimately rather see those minutes go to, the
Mo Bamba.
Sure. But even, it is so against what it was. It felt like a panic signing in practice. And then, it is just against who the Jazz say they are. But we also know that the Jazz kicked around signing Miles Bridges a couple years back, right? Like, there is a level of hypocrisy, right? Mm-hmm. And I think there is a level of the Jazz organization going out and saying that they're one thing and doing kind of not that in multiple circumstances. And it is frustrating from a media point of view, and it's certainly frustrating from a fan point of view, because you're asking fans to root for a guy like that. And I don't think he's shown a lot of contrition about that incident. I don't think his NBA behavior has been great either, right? Like, he weirdly picked a fight with a mascot last year. I don't know.
Yeah.
Anyway. It sucks, man. Like, and I think we should be asking the hard questions to Austin Ainge and Justin Zanuck and Ryan Smith about it.
Well, and they should also speak to it. And instead of signing him and pretending like that's not part of the story, when it just is, there's no way around it.
Yeah.
All right.
And I'll say this, like, the last bad character guy that they signed was Malik Beasley.
And that turned out to be even worse than we knew when he was here. Jeez.
Like, you just got to be smarter than that, you know? Like, it's an unforced error, and they deserve a lot of criticism for it.
Yeah. Starting five, opening night, Utah Jazz. Who do you think it will be? Who do you think it should be?
We know four of the players. I really believe that. It's Keontae, Lowry, Jaren, and Yusuf Nurkic as four of them. And then I think it's Darren and AJ fighting for the shooting guard. Darren and Ace fighting for the number 2 spot.
Does it indicate to you, I mean, the Walker decision, value play, okay, we all get it. If they thought they were contending this year, they probably bring him back.
Yeah.
Right? So does this indicate to you that maybe there's a mindset here, like, we think we have 2 potential stars and they're both 19?
Yeah. No, I mean, they look at the Western Conference and say, do we have a prayer in hell of actually competing with the San Antonio Spurs and Oklahoma City Thunder over 82 games in a playoff series? No, they're way too young and do not have the proven talent that those guys do, and have not been able to coach, even an average defensive team yet. Like, they're still so far away. Even if they have Walker Kessler next year, you're still, Vegas sees them as a play-in team. Right?
Yeah.
So you can't. One of the most dangerous things you can do in an NBA front office is overstating where you are as a team. And the Jazz, I think, were smarter than that, and did the right thing with Walker and said, "Hey, yes, our contention window is a few years out, and that's okay. That you can still be a playoff team now, but let's be serious about where we are."
All right, coming up next, the World Cup finalists Sunday. The U.S. men's national team journey ended long ago. RSL is back next week. Andy will give us some soccer thoughts coming up, and then maybe some thoughts on how these fires are starting, because that's kind of your current situation, a situation close to Porter's heart. I want to let you know that you can help Utah kids start school with confidence. Over 200 kids at the road home need your help with back to school clothes, shoes, backpacks, and more. Visit ESPN700sports.com or appletreeforkids.com. For more information and to donate now, quick Uinta Golf PGA update. Uinta Golf by Worldwide Golf. Visit in-store for free custom fitting at Uinta Golf or shop online at worldwidegolf.com. Get there. Lucas Herbert is your leader in the clubhouse at 8 under par. He carded a 62 today to tie the course record. Cam Young, Ryan Gerard, Jackson Suver all at 6 under par. Sam Burns matched the 62 from Lucas Herbert. He is at 5 under par. Bryson DeChambeau was one shot off the lead, but something happened while we were watching, and he melted down like a child, which was awesome. All right, more with Andy coming up next on ESPN 700. Am I to believe that Aaron Falk doesn't listen to this radio show? How dare Aaron Falk call you when we're about to go back on air?
Well, I called him and he was in a meeting, so must be the only reason he wouldn't listen.
Probably a few others, but are you still reporting to him? Like, oh, he's still your boss?
He's still my boss, which is awesome.
Yeah, there are worse bosses to work for.
Yeah, and Aaron and I have been friends for a long time, ever since we covered the Jazz at the same time, right? When I was at KSL, and he was with both with the Tribune and with the Jazz. So yeah, it's always good to have a boss that you trust and can work with on stuff like seamlessly. It's great.
Worst 3 bosses you've worked for at the Trib?
I mean,
bottom 3.
I've worked with Aaron for the vast majority of my time there.
Yeah, I would never ask you to rank the worst sports editors in Tribune history.
I've only worked for 2, and Joe Baird was pretty good too.
Yeah, for sure. All right, you know what? Let's start with the U.S. men's national team, and then we'll get to the teams that are left and your thoughts on this. It's such a cool tournament. I always forget that it comes back, and then I go all in. And then the days that there aren't any games, I'm like, wait, what do I do again? I don't remember what I did before this World Cup tournament. So I have a 2-tiered, not take, I don't do radio like that, but like a 2-tiered mindset with this. I don't think it's the same old U.S. men's national team. I really don't. I know some people do, and on the surface it does indicate that it might be, because the same old deal. Get out of group, get to the knockout round, maybe win a game, hopefully 2, and then that's all we can ask for. That's literally what they did. They did win their group, but there were moments, maybe albeit against subpar competition, where they did look like a team that might be able to do something special this year. They did not, but I'm not sure that it's one and the same. What do you think?
Yeah, that's what's so hard about what happened is I do think the Paraguay game was the best they have looked in the last 20 years, since 2002. I mean, I really like, you look at how the U.S. took apart Paraguay in a way that even France wasn't able to, and the movement, and I mean, they really looked like they were playing as one. The number of chances they created were terrific. And then the Bosnia game, they go down a man and still have absolute total control of that game with 10 men. Like, it was incredibly promising for the first 4 games. And then, the 5th game against Belgium was such a horror show. They looked completely outclassed. They looked nervous. They looked, Pulisic gave the ball up 11 times in 45 minutes. They looked shell-shocked. And, I don't know if it was the Balogun red card decision and the suspension being uplifted that caused this, or just, the moment got too big for them in some way. But the way they played in the first 4 games and the way they played in the Belgium game, it was not just about the level of competition. It was about the way the U.S. played, and it's just so disappointing for that to happen at the biggest moment.
So I don't know if you heard, but Flo Balogun got a red card that was rescinded. Okay, so let's dig into this for a moment. Again, a non-binary thought process. I don't think it was a red.
Agreed.
Bruce Arena did, and some pretty, notable soccer voices did. So let's start there. But I do not believe it was a red. However, I also didn't love the process. No. And dude, don't meddle in everything, okay? Just let the process. I think it should have stood. I just think the process, the way it went down, and Flo himself after the game. And look, if they would have won, it's not a distraction. Agreed. They got their asses kicked. But how did you kind of dissect that or digest that news cycle?
I mean, it's pretty clear that it was a distraction. They've said so since, right? And I agree. I don't think it's a red card. I think it's an orange. He does twist his ankle. I don't think it's Balogun's fault. The studs are raked down the back of the leg, but it's not with a lot of force. It's one of those things where you can't have a discussion on whether or not it's red. And if you can have the discussion, then it's called on that day. The history has always been that's a suspension, and I think there are a lot of world presidents who would have called FIFA, and I don't think that there are a lot of presidents that FIFA would have answered, right? And to me, that's honestly where I put most of the blame is FIFA can't be this corrupt. I mean, and we know that they're this corrupt.
Unfortunately, I was going to say they are.
We're not surprised, but when you have Sepp Blatter going on Twitter and being like, this is a disgrace, this is the most corrupt thing that has ever happened with FIFA, and it's Sepp Blatter, who is for those non-soccer knowers, the former president of FIFA and a famously and indeed criminally corrupt individual.
Yeah. Yep. Mm-hmm.
It's a really bad thing, and so I don't really believe in karma or juju or whatever, but it was, I think, clearly just a literal distraction for the players on the field, and may have played a role in the way they played in that game.
And again, we all do the thing where based on the result, then we dissect the dynamics. If they would have won, high five, way to go. They got it rescinded, a flow, had a brace, and they won 3-1, we'd be celebrating.
Right.
But he didn't look like himself. And when he gave his first interview on the subject, he said he could sense from his teammates that they thought it was a distraction as well.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
How could it not be?
Yeah, 100%. 100%. And so, I don't know. I just, yes, it wasn't a red, and maybe it was the right decision at the end of the day. What do you think it did to Belgium, though? Because I'll tell you, when I saw the 11, I'm like, dude, they're sitting De Bruyne, Doku, and then Lukaku comes off the bench for them anyway. Yeah. It was like delightfully arrogant, right? I don't know how much of that had to do with, like, we don't even need our best players to kick your ass.
It's funny because when I saw that lineup, I thought that they planned on not having that much of the ball. I thought that meant, you looked at how the U.S. played in their previous 4 games and saw that they had a lot of the ball, and so and frankly, Belgium's traditional method of keeping the ball and creating a lot of chances hadn't really worked so far in the tournament. So I thought that they were making, the strategic adjustment, saying, okay, we're going to give you a little, some of the ball but mostly try to stay solid and attacking and counter and so on. So that was kind of my thought. And then, De Bruyne hadn't played excellent in the first 4 games. It was really the Doku decision that was surprising to me. But anyway, they could have put out their worst 11 and still would have beat the U.S. on that day. I mean, I like the RSL team we saw Wednesday, I think, beats the U.S. on that day. They were just so completely awful. They were making, high school mistakes out there.
Yeah, and that leads me to, there's this dynamic and conversation piece surrounding this cycle specifically where Weston McKennie, Kristen Pulisic, Flo Balogun, so many of our best players are playing at gigantic clubs in Europe. So when like an MLS player gets a spot, people are like, well, wait a second. You're starting an MLS keeper, and then Matt Freese went full MLS on us with that. I mean, if there's one moment that encapsulated that entire game, it was Matt Freese kicking the ground and not the ball, and then Tim Ream forgetting how to walk.
Yeah, insane. I mean, just not anywhere near good enough. I think there were some non-MLS players with awful, Serginho Dest was just as bad as those two, frankly. I think you can point, Tim Weah had an awful tournament. But okay, to me, I don't think the problem is MLS players. I'll be honest. I think the problem is Matt Freese and Tim Ream. Matt Freese, to me, is not a top 10 goalkeeper in MLS. Mm-hmm. And I truly believe that. You look at the data, he's not. Yeah. The number 1 goalkeeper in MLS right now by the stats is probably Patrick Schwacke, who is also American, by the way. Call him up. That he was the number 1 option I never liked. I absolutely would have preferred Matt Turner, who also can have moments like that too, but would have preferred Schwacke. Probably prefer Chris Brady, although he's weird too. I don't know. I've never been a Matt Freese guy. Tim Ream actually had a pretty good tournament until Game 5. But to me, that's just like they didn't have anyone else. Maybe, if there's some injuries avoided, maybe they're in a different spot with that. But Tim Ream absolutely should have done better on that play, and I still think had a actually pretty decent tournament.
Also, Belgium's awesome. I mean, the interesting thing, and I feel like I come from a unique perspective here, so I can speak to it as someone who was not just a non-soccer guy, but an anti-soccer guy until 2004. So now I have 5 World Cup cycles and 22 years working in soccer or covering soccer. Mm-hmm. So I know what it's like to, and I still don't feel like I'm an expert on this game at all. I just feel like I know more than I used to. But once every 4 years, this tournament comes around and suddenly Stephen A. Smith and Colin Coward and the loudest voices in media feel like they have to chime in. You don't have to, and you sound like idiots. Because you hear this narrative where it's like, we can't beat Belgium. I'm like, no. Belgium's very, very good.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, we did lose to a very, very good side.
Yeah, to be sure. And, like, they're out of their golden generation a little bit, but still are, a top 10 team in the world. I think we're at a place with soccer where, Stephen A. and Colin Cowherd and everyone else do have to talk about soccer. Like,
but then learn about it. But then sound like you're actually doing a little work and watching matches.
Yeah, which look, Stephen A.'s got too much to do. He's on General Hospital or whatever. But like,
or bring on an expert and ask a question.
Right.
You know,
which is also kind of against their mode of operation, I guess. Like, if we're getting 50 million people watching the U.S.-Belgium game, or 50 million people watching the Mexico-England game, this is the third biggest sport in America now.
Yep.
I mean, that outpaces every baseball game that's been played in the last 20 years. I believe that's true. It's at least 10 years. Certainly every hockey game. Most basketball games. There are a couple exceptions, but like 95% no. It's really, like, those are big numbers. And if you look at, like, yes, the MLS TV ratings are awful. The Liga MX ratings are pretty good. The EPL ratings are pretty good. Like, there is a significant support for soccer in this country, and yes, it's not for America's major league, but this is a thing that sports people should know about. I was going to say something mean about the other radio station, but I will skip that.
You don't have to skip that on this show.
Look, I like those guys, but like,
well, some of them
was listening to their show the other day, or a few weeks ago, and they have, I believe it was like a minute and a half long World Cup segment, and they're like, this is the minute and a half World Cup segment where they had their soccer knowing producer talk about it, which is great. I think you should have your soccer voices talk about soccer in a knowledgeable way. At least you have someone who knows what they're talking about, right? But it can't be a minute and a half in a 4-hour show anymore. Like, that's not where we are with soccer as a sport.
I'm not sure they're going to have a former team manager in college basketball break it down, so you might as well have a producer that pays attention. But I have referred to this Gallup poll on a number of different occasions, and in 2025/2026, soccer is now, the data is, it is the third most popular sport in the country as far as respondents who name their favorite sport. Okay. So one was American football, and it always will be. Once upon a time in the 90s when Jordan was Jordan, basketball was kind of at the heels of football. That's no longer the case. It's American football by far, and then it's basketball by far, but then it's soccer for the first time over hockey and baseball. That's just the data. And you're going to hear a conversation out of with Garth Lagerwey. I kind of put it like this. I feel like most soccer people are fine with the real estate they've carved out. And I do think one of the issues to some growth here is there are some gatekeepers at times that get a little bit annoying as far as people that are genuinely trying to learn the sport. Like wait, there are a lot of people that are like, well, wait a second. This is now too big for me to ignore. You referenced and I talked about the big media voices that once every 4 years feel like they do have to chime in. There are some of them that are like Van Pelt is actually really, really good when he brings on Twellman because he acknowledges like, okay, I never thought I would have to cover the sport, but now I have no choice. I'm learning about it. Help me understand it more. Mm-hmm. And there's some loud voices that I think are very honest in their endeavor to try to learn. But I do think the snobby soccer fan on the other side that does not want to have their sport grow anymore is an issue as far as growth goes. But how much growth is reasonable to expect? Or do you feel like soccer simply is just here to stay where it is?
I mean, it's here to stay in like kind of to me, the form, like I'm not expecting MLS to be a top 5 league in the next 10 years, but I do think it will kind of continue to be really fragmented. And that's what kind of makes it hard to just do soccer cramming, right? To just cram for the World Cup, to just be ready to talk about in this way is there are, 5 major leagues and then there's Major League Soccer and Liga MX and the Brazilian League and so many players and players are moving all the time and coaches get fired every 9 months and like just it is just a lot of information to take in and then obviously there's the tactical element, which is famously kind of difficult to understand and moving and the stat picture. You can't rely on like a batting average in the same way you can with with baseball, right?
Yeah.
You can say goals, but then that's how are you talking about midfielders and defenders? So, yeah, I think we get to a place where, if you are talking about soccer, you're not being made fun of. And I do think it's part of the role of, yes, the soccer hipsters and millennials and South Goal screaming fans like me to welcome people in, and, it's like it's been fun to have, like, the Utah Hawk guy on Twitter.
Yeah.
Yells, it's the Mammoth's maybe most famous fan, like, is just yelling all the time and swearing all the time. He's a riot, right? But he's come to the RSL games this year and had a really fun time and kind of learned, hey, this fan base knows how to have a good time too, and there's an environment and passion there that can kind of cross sports, and I think so the level of connection you can build, cross sports and to people who aren't fans yet but can be is something that we should be striving to do as kind of soccer representatives, I guess.
And look, I always approach it knowing that it's not for everybody, and it doesn't have to be. It's fine. But I think if you're in this ecosystem and you'd rather do a segment on the third string defensive back for Utah State than the World Cup, then you're going to die on the vine. You're a dinosaur. Because it's not like, and I don't know how anybody who watches sport or covers sport or understands what sport means to people can watch this thing and not go, this is unbelievable, and quite frankly, unlike anything else that exists.
And we have to do a good job as media too, right? Like we have to, from a Tribune point of view, the people who like soccer are a different demographic than the people who are subscribing to the print version of the Salt Lake Tribune, right? Like we're not getting old East Side Utah football fans. We're talking. If we want to cover soccer, we want to reach more diverse demographics, a younger audience. They're probably on Instagram. They're probably on TikTok. How do we do that? How do we change our coverage so it meets their needs while still, being investigative and deep and talking to players and coaches and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Right? Like, for you, it's obviously like podcasts and downloadable formats and shorter clips and, there's we do just have to be with the times a little bit of how the people consume their news.
Yeah.
And I think especially in this soccer instance, because it is developing in a different way than, people traditionally get their football or basketball coverage.
Correct. And I think that's one of the things that's interesting about the ecosystem is soccer fans have always had to be a little bit creative to find good coverage of the sport they love. It hasn't been traditional big markets. It hasn't been traditional big loud voices. You've had to kind of go find it.
And to be clear, like at this is something I think we can improve on at the Tribune too, right? Like it's not like we have a RSL beat writer right now, but I think again, being creative and being smart about how we cover these sports that are growing, that do have interest, but require different strategies, I think is something we have to think a lot about and act on.
And honestly, I want to go back to the whole, like, it's cool that Stephen A. Smith and Colin Cowherd and whoever else is talking about it. You can tell really quickly the people that have done the work and the people that have tried to watch matches, and even if you're not fully grasping it, you can tell the people that are at least trying. So I want to talk about some of the narratives that are out there with these media voices that like to drop in once every 4 years and pretend they're experts. Number one is this. If our best athletes played this game when they were young, we would dominate the world landscape. To that, you say what?
I mean, look at Belgium. Belgium has probably, Lukaku is a huge athletic forward, but like Yuri Tielemans is tiny.
Spain looks
tiny.
like a bunch of accountants, dude.
Yeah, I mean, like these are. You walk into a soccer locker room and it's just very different than a basketball or football locker room. And actually, it's not that different physically from a hockey locker room, which is a lot of short dudes. But it's so much of it is just on ball skill. It's your first touch. It's the vision. It's knowing where to play the ball. It's being able to shift the ball from foot to foot, right? Like it's just like legitimately just 7-year-old kicking the ball around the sidewalk kind of stuff that you just kind of need the reps for, right?
Yeah.
And I think the pay-to-play conversation is actually really interesting. Like how do we get more of our athletes who are growing up playing soccer at a young age? How can they get training and coaching in competitive soccer without spending $5,000 a year? But if our best athletes played, I do not think LeBron would be a good soccer player.
Yeah. Yeah, so this is one where I kind of understand both sides. Your point about like LeBron or, like a big athletic east to west linebacker is completely correct. I do think, though, if more of our elite level athletes that aren't built like freaks decided to get into soccer younger and actually took years, because what you have to understand when you're watching the World Cup, these kids had a soccer ball put at their feet probably as soon as they were born, right? So if you add more dynamic athletes to our ecosystem when they're young, to your point, one of the bigger problems is a lot of them can't afford to play in the club system. And as the father of a son who played in the club system, I can tell you one of the biggest problems is you can't cut kids if mom and dad just paid $6,000. Right. And some of the kids my son played with needed to get cut. Mm-hmm. I think cuts are important. I think they're important in golf. I don't like the way they're being done away with on the PGA Tour because of the live stuff. And the threat of being cut from a team motivates you to work harder to make that team. And if you can't cut kids that, quite frankly, aren't cut out to play at the level, then you're training with them every day. It doesn't lead to improvement. And then the club system across the country, Messi's the best example. Clubs are financially motivated to develop players because they actually see rewards as opposed to the kids and their parents paying for the right to be on the team. It's just a whole different ballgame.
Yeah, and the MLS academies have done a much better job at this in the last 5 to 10 years, right? Like, I mean, I think Xavier Gozo is an awesome story, right? Like, grew up here, went to the RSL Academy, like, grew his game. One of my friends works with his mom, like, and just cool. Like, is an actual Utah kid that developed through this kind of process, and it's certainly not the first through RSL's Academy, and won't be the last. Like, the problem is, that's only happened really because Salt Lake happened to get an MLS team thanks to your dad's efforts 22 years ago or whatever it is. Yeah. And so I think you look at some really populated areas or, I think it was something like half to 2/3 of the country doesn't count as being kind of in an MLS Academy market, where this is something that the academies are paying for and making sure that these kids are trained. At kind of the highest level, and so there are just a lot of kids right now that do fall through the cracks. Or, then what about late bloomers? What about players who end up in an academy then leave and then go to college, or like they're just kind of all these exceptions where we're letting potential really talented kids go, and certainly some of them then just decide to play basketball instead, right? Like, I guess Steve Nash Canadian, but Steve Nash. Was a soccer player growing up and then decided, this basketball thing's better for me. Yeah. I don't know that happens in Belgium, but, it's a multifaceted conversation. I do think we're getting better at it. I don't think that, we should expect, again, the U.S. to be a top 5 team in the world anytime soon, but there is a gap to the way we approach it and the way other countries approach it, and does come down to money in a lot of circumstances.
Yeah, and it comes down to money oftentimes in the decision-making process of what elite athletes decide to do. Yeah. And if you see a basketball player sign a $250 million contract, you're like, wait, okay, well, if I'm really good at that, then I'm going to go try to get that bag. And I think as MLS grows, and it can maybe pay players in a way that and young kids can see, well, wait a second, if I'm really good at this, I should keep doing this because I can also get paid a different way. The other one is the diving conversation. And this is one where I can see both sides. Because, whenever I hear like dumb football guy that likes to grill steak and eat it raw and drink whiskey rares, be like, hey, hold on a second, they're diving all the time. I'm like, they draw penalties in football. And have you watched a basketball game recently? These guys are diving left and right. However, in those other sports, they don't have stretchers. Where in soccer, you run on the field, the guy's taking off on a stretcher, and then boom, he's up. Like, it is worse in soccer, but it does exist in other sports.
Agreed. And I would say, like, kind of the setup of the sport is really so that, like, the dives are very, very obvious, right? Like, if a player gets stepped on a American football field, first of all, I play soccer, you know this. Getting stepped on with a cleat on your foot hurts so
I'll
bad.
Never forget the first time it happened to me as an adult. I thought I broke my foot. It's legitimate pain.
And like that happens when you're playing soccer like once every 3 or 4 games as a player. And so, across the course of one game, it's happening to 4 or 5 players. Like, you are actually rolling around in pain because
Right.
it just that does hurt that bad. When that happens on a football field, like you can walk off and take the next play off, and your backup comes in. And when that happens on a soccer field, the entire game stops for 3 minutes, right? Like, and it is just frustrating.
Yeah.
And then certainly, like, I do think it's fair to say that there just is more diving in soccer than there is in other sports.
Yeah.
I would like to see significant, what we saw, frankly, during this tournament, where there is some level of video review for simulation, and if you dive, look like an idiot, and then you get a yellow, and
as you should,
as you should, and immediately, and we've been too reluctant to do that. I think, frankly, the NBA has been too reluctant to do that. It is a problem. I do think, like, the format of the sport makes it feel a lot worse. And then obviously, like, the penalty problem is real too, where it's like, if you dive on the edge bottom corner of the box in a goofy setup, you nearly guarantee your team a goal in a situation that you were never going to score a goal, right?
Right.
And other sports have that problem too, right? Like basketball has players diving for threes. You have football wide receivers trying to draw pass interference penalties, right? Like this is happening in other sports, but just the soccer setup is bad. And they've tried to do some things to adjust that with like the handball rule and whatever. Like I saw a tweet that said soccer's not even trying to fix this problem, and I think they are.
Yeah.
But it more needs to be done.
Are you aware of your reputation around the rec soccer community around here?
I'm guessing it's not positive.
Yeah, you're selfish and you shoot on goal when you should be passing to teammates.
Oh, that's definitely not me.
Oh, it's not you.
I mean, have you heard this?
People are talking.
What I know about my soccer reputation, and it is absolutely deserved, is that I am a complete jerk on the pitch. Like I am Grayson Allen out there, man.
You're Grayson Allen?
I am problematic.
Are we talking Reds? Have you been sent off?
I've never been sent off.
Okay.
I'm proud of that. I get a
Okay.
lot of yellows. I got in our soccer league, you get fined if you get a certain number of yellows per year.
You have to pay money out of your pocket?
It's $20 if I get more than 3 yellows in a year.
What?
Yep.
There's a fine system in your rec soccer
There's a
league?
fine system in our rec soccer league. I've been fined. I think not every year, but like once or twice of 10 years of playing.
All right, last one is this, and you kind of alluded to it. And look, I do feel like
are they really saying I'm selfish? You got to be making that up.
I'll tell you off air.
Okay.
Look, I do find it somewhat annoying when an awesome goal is scored and the goal scorer is called offside because a toe is offside. But you hear these people in other sports be like, oh, it's so annoying where they have to acknowledge like this fine line. And I'm like, dude, I watch football every Saturday and Sunday, and I want to pull my hair out when they have to review a first down. It's the same damn thing.
Yep.
So, like, again, these dumb conversations happen when people drop in once every 4 years.
Yeah, we don't know where first downs are either. The players don't know. Yeah,
Right,
I agree.
right.
It's the same thing. I'm listening to tweaks to the offside law. Like the Wenger idea of like your whole body has to be offside is sort of interesting to me.
Mm-hmm.
I think most interesting to me would be to eliminate some of like the accidental touches, like what happened in the Iran game. It has to be kind of intentionally played or something like that, or even like you can't be offside in the last 6 yards of the field. So that the last 6 yards you're free. I'm willing to listen to that, but I don't think it's it is not a problem specific to soccer. No.
And let me be clear, this is coming from a person who, when he did his first RSL postgame show, said out loud, I have a solution to this game. Do away with offsides and make the goals bigger. This was in 2005. Okay, so your boys come a long way. After I said that out loud, and then boom, like I got lit up right away. I'm like, okay, just calm down. Last thing, RSL is back starting next week. I'm sure you looked at the schedule. It is boom, boom, boom. I think there are 6 3-game weeks. Yep. Obviously, Leagues Cup. But they're third in the West. They're bringing a new winger from Atlanta. I don't know much about him. And Steve Starks joined the podcast last week and essentially said they're going to be additive, meaning I took that as they're not selling Gozo. They're not selling Luna. They've got a DP slot in their back pocket should they want to use it. What do you think happens in the summer window, and what are you expecting the rest of the way?
Yeah, it's so hard because, like, that Gozo and Luna want to go but it has to be a good offer. It can't be the Monterey $3.5 million for Diego Luna. Get out of town. But like, I was so impressed with how they played against Burnley. Like having after a month off to do what they did against a team that was in the actual English Premier League last year, and obviously they weren't playing all of their top guys and have got relegated, right? Like they're not a great team, but like to go out there and stomp Burnley 4-1 was awesome. I think this is a really good team. I don't think they're the best team in MLS, and they will need to have upgrades in order to be that. Like I think there are some holes. The midfield possession's not great. Maybe a McAnally returning helps that. But like, I really really enjoy this roster. It's probably my favorite RSL team of the last 10 years, and it's been so much fun this year. I think the environment's been really great this year. I'm really really looking forward to the return of RSL.
Yeah, no, I'm with you. Why are all these fires starting? Because you got a new gig now.
Yeah, working the data beat. So the wildfires actually are not frequently caused that often by fireworks. There are only 53 fireworks cause fires in 2020 out of like 2,000 odd.
2,000 fires?
Let me get the exact numbers. So wait, now I got to add it up.
Porter's ready to chime in here.
Yeah,
Porter's got some hot fire takes.
About 2,000. But you look at it in like equipment and vehicle use caused 726 fires.
Okay.
Open burning, like open fires, 326. Firearms and explosive use caused 113 fires, way more than fireworks.
Okay.
Now, fireworks do cause a lot of fires, but they cause a lot of like structure fires or small grass fires in cities and stuff. Wildfires, the ones that cause a lot of smoke, etc. Like those are largely like shooting ranges cause like inert target shooting causes just as many fires as fireworks, which is campfires cause 146 fireworks. Anyway, this is all on the Salt Lake Tribune's website.
Okay.
Among other things, we're looking at trying to do 2 or 3 data columns a week over there, and it's been really fun so far.
What's the hot take? You got the data now.
Andy's on top of it.
Okay.
As you mentioned, there are thousands of fires every year.
Yeah.
You don't see most of them. A lot of them are like lightning caused. The firework ones are usually someone burning down their neighbor's barn or something. Not too bad.
All right.
But
good to
still,
know.
be careful.
1,200 fires last year is the number I've got. I had to scroll through my story real quick, but yeah.
Yeah, that feels like a lot of fires. But sltrib.com. Andy, good to see you, buddy.
Thanks, man.
Andy Larson, Salt Lake Tribune, stops by today courtesy of our friends at Advanced Window Products. It is hot outside. Is your house warm even when you have the air conditioning on in the summer? Is it cold even though you have the heater on in the winter? It is your windows. So time to get them replaced. And the good news is you can save a ton of money if you do it right now with our friends at Advanced Window Products. $2,500 off when you purchase 10 windows or more. Discounts can be prorated for fewer than 10 windows. This is Nate Orchard, the mayor of Sac Lake City. His buddy Jake Weber. They run a great family-owned company since 1986, and they can hook you up. They've got lifetime warranties that are transferable if you're fixing to sell your home. It can up the curb appeal. So give them a call at 801-850-9100. That's 801-850-9100, 801-850-9100, or online at advancedwindows.com. Garth Lagerway next. Tim McMahon is going to join us. We'll talk some Jazz and some NBA. And then Paul Pugmire for the latest on the Open Championship. Bryson DeChambeau was given a 2-stroke penalty for being a baby. More next on ESPN 700. former RSL president, GM. You ran the thing, Seattle, Atlanta. You know him, you love him. Garth Lagerwey, how are you, man? Good to see you.
I'm doing great, man. It's so fun to be back here. We have so many happy memories in this building, and it's great to be around you and your family too, Spence.
Now, you know that we're big. Somebody just scored. We'll figure it out. Highlights later, 10:35. Stay tuned. Burnley FC, RSL. Let's start with the emotions and memories that flood back to you when you walk in this building, when you hear the RSL song, when you see the colors, when you see Trey. We can leave that aside. But the emotions that come back to you when you're here.
So my first time down on the field, I looked up, and when I was here, it was Jason's number, Jason Christ, that was retired. Yeah. And now you got him flanked by Nick Raimondo and Javi Morales. And look, man, it was this moment of reflection where you're like, well, we're here forever. Because that was the era that we built. And it certainly wasn't just us. It was those guys and hopefully some more names that maybe wind up on that wall one day. But that's a real testament to, we built something that to last. And we built something that made a difference. And, look, I'm still an RSL fan. I mean, when you look at things like we started the academy here, and now it's this incredible endeavor, and Jason's built it out so amazingly and built on the work of so many others. And, now you have these kids coming through like Gozo and some of these absolutely fabulous prospects. And, they embody Salt Lake as a community. So it's really amazing. And, your dad was instrumental in, teaching us, mentoring us, but also then just aligning the club here with the values of Salt Lake City. And I think that makes for a really successful sports franchise for a long time.
Yeah, it's been amazing to watch the growth and watch the continued growth. And the deal when the World Cup is being played. And, I didn't grow up a soccer fan, but this is like my 5th World Cup cycle. One cycle we didn't qualify, but the other cycles it's kind of been the same deal, right? Yep. We get out of the group this year. We won it. Maybe we get a knockout round win, but Garth, the conversation turns into what kind of bump does the game get, specifically with the World Cup being played on our soil?
Yeah, and look, I was in Atlanta for this World Cup, and you do see a lot of enthusiasm in a market like that. 8 games, and you look at in Atlanta, we had a 3-year cycle of Copa America 2 summers ago, and then Club World Cup, and now World Cup. So you're really building that, and in that time frame, U.S. Soccer relocates, and so you have the men's and the women's teams all there. So you've watched Atlanta gradually transform into this international soccer city. What we have to see, though, is this going to impact all these markets? I know here in Salt Lake, you guys had the incredible watch parties and almost 100,000 people that attended those things. And when you see that enthusiasm, that's really what you got to capitalize on now. And I think MLS 2 has an opportunity to revolve some of the roster rules that have been around since I was the GM here in Salt Lake. And we have this real opportunity now to pursue a global television audience and a global streaming audience. And, we've nailed buildings like this and communities like this in the terms of attendance, right? You have an amazing time anytime you go in person to an RSL game. But now how do we get people to watch RSL play when they're away?
There was a Gallup poll that I've referred to several times on my show that for the first time last year, soccer has surpassed baseball and hockey as the 3rd most popular sport preferred by Americans. It's American football, always will be. Yep. Basketball, probably always will be. Yep. But soccer has recently passed hockey and baseball. On a global scale, it's not even close. It's soccer, then it's like cricket, and then basketball. American football is all the way down the list. I bring that up because I feel like soccer would like growth, but we're kind of good. We found some real estate. It's not going anywhere. MLS is 30 years old, right? I mean, give me your thoughts on that.
Yeah, look, that's right, Spencer. But I think what you have to be worried about now is all that competition that you talked about. I mean, in America, you can watch the European Champions League. Yeah. You can watch the Premier League, right? I mean, there's a Premier League team in Burnley that's out here playing right now. You can watch Liga MX, the Mexican league. And you can watch, if you want to, highlights from any league or any game anywhere in the world. So you have to be mindful of that in MLS. And I think, yes, we're solid. Yes, the market for soccer is growing. But you're at risk of losing some of the share of that market if you're not innovative, if you're not progressive, if you're not continuing to try to push the envelope from an MLS perspective. And you've just had this moment where all of these guys are in your home country, and the infrastructure here, because of all the establishment of basketball and football and all these other big sports, the infrastructure, the stadiums and the training facilities literally are the best in the world. These guys have all now trained in those facilities. They've now played in 80,000 NFL stadiums. They're going to want to come here and play. So we got to make it as easy as possible for these World Cup stars to come here and play.
Yeah, love that. Last thing that will set you loose. Jason Kreis is back running the thing. President of soccer for both the Royals and RSL. The women are playing good soccer. The men are playing good soccer. John Kimball, guys like Trey and Brooke Bingham. There was a moment where we all wondered, like, will the RSL family way continue, or will it ever be back? Pablo's the head coach. They have a really, really good team. The Millers have come in and stabilized the entire operation. So give me an RSL thought before I set you loose.
It's amazing, to come back and see the number of familiar faces and folks that have been here for 15 years. And, and just, we did a little panel before we came out and to talk about the cultural foundation, the team is the star and how everybody bought in as part of that. And, of course, the Millers, longstanding members of this community, right? Lifting up the iconic Jazz teams. And so to have them in charge feels appropriate, feels like these are the right custodians and they're only going to grow it from here.
What you did not hear at the end of that interview was Steve Starks literally opening the door to the outside field so the crowd noise could spill in, as I think Sergi Solon scored a goal. Garth Lagerwey was the general manager of RSL during the heyday, about a 5-year window where they won MLS Cup, went to the finals of CONCACAF, spent some time running Seattle, landed in Atlanta, and we'll see what's next for Garth. Very talented soccer executive. We are going to bring in Tim McMahon today. Tim will stop by to talk some Jazz, and he'll talk a little NBA big picture. You need to acknowledge that your boy LeBron at this point, we know what time it is. We know who he is. We know the deal here. This stuff is out of control. You know that it is, Porter. I know you're our LeBron guy on the show. But for him to hold these live podcast events, is it his podcast? Is it Rich Paul's podcast? What is this platform?
They co-host a podcast.
Oh, okay.
I think.
I don't know, but our guy Dave McMiniman was on SportsCenter last night. And maybe you have a different understanding of the current situation, but I feel like most people were under the impression that he and Rich Paul and everyone is a clutch. That's their deal.
Yeah.
They decided to hold this huge live recording of their podcast where he was going to announce where he was going to go. And then when the time came, he was like, well, I'm a really great leader and I'm awesome at this and I'm awesome at everything. And I need to find a place that believes I'm awesome. And I haven't found that place yet. So trust the process. Isn't that kind of how it went down?
I don't think there was ever a plan for him to announce it during that podcast. I think they were just doing a live podcast that had been planned far out. But there's no doubt that LeBron is kind of teasing, right? Even to use the phrase trust the process, while Philly is one of the 3 or 4 teams that is very much in play. It's silly. And listen, LeBron being silly off the floor is not something new. It's not something that I even necessarily shy away from. I've never been a huge fan of some of that stuff. It's just what he does on the court that I am enthralled with, if you will.
All right, so the podcast is called The Barbershop.
There you go.
It's LeBron's podcast with Maverick Carter, not Rich Paul.
Yes.
Rich Paul has his own podcast, I guess. So Friday's episode, I guess Novak Djokovic was there. Flo Balogun was there. Flo did the LeBron celebration after he scored the goal. And then Maverick Carter, LeBron James, Travis Bennett was there. Stilo Brim. I guess this Stilo Brim character is taking over the show moving forward. And then he did a podcast with Tyrese Halliburton on Thursday. I guess Tyrese has a podcast. Okay, so maybe I was wrong then. Because Dave was they had McMiniman live on the ground there.
I'm sure there was maybe an expectation that would be the play, right? He's trying to pump the podcast, but I don't think it was ever from him or from his entourage ever teased that I'm deciding here. It wasn't the decision part 2. I think people are just waiting on pins and needles and him making a public appearance in any form. He was at a concert a few weeks ago and people were like, is this where and it's like, no, he's courting and teasing. And that's what we get. I don't know. I assume we'll get a Dave McMiniman tweet when it finally goes down.
Sources indicate that Rich Paul is asking teams to continue to shower LeBron with lavish gifts and prizes. Okay. Well, Adam Silver did come out. And look, while I find LeBron just grating off the court, there is an undeniable element here that he does move the needle, and he is this generation's greatest player. He probably is the only player that could get Adam Silver to say this, quote, where LeBron plays will affect the schedule. So I would like him to make his announcement already so he can finish the schedule. Because as you might imagine, the teams are calling us, the networks are calling us, and everybody wants to lock in the schedule. It will influence how we set the schedule, how we set opening week, Christmas Day, etc. So I need him to make a decision.
Pretty silly.
That comes from Adam Silver, which is pretty funny.
Yeah, I mean, he is that type of player, and especially if this is like his swan song, right? You're going to want those games to be marquee matchups. You're going to want them to be on Christmas. You're going to want the whole thing. I don't know about a league going about deciding their schedule based upon it, though. Like, I'm sure you can flex a few things to make it happen.
Ooh, so McMiniman. Okay, here's from our guy Dave. Multiple sources familiar with James' thinking told ESPN that James is truly close to making a decision. Like Silver, mini league and team personnel ESPN has spoken to are hopeful that decision will come next week. Okay, so let's bottom line this. Where do you think he's going? I think last I checked, you thought it was Cleveland.
I did. I'll say this. I think it's Cleveland, Golden State, or Philly. And I think that because, number one, obviously the Cleveland avenue is clear. I think that one, though, is going to be tough to win, and I do think that this is a big part of his final year. He doesn't want to go out and not win an NBA title. The Philly one, you've got a really good roster there in Philly, if healthy, could do some damage. And then, of course, in Golden State, you team up with Steve Kerr, you team up with Steph Curry, you team up with Team USA guys that you've played with in the past, and you stay home on the coast of California. So I think if I were a betting man on this type of stuff, those would be the three that I look at.
He did also say, because there was some conversation about, okay, how he's going to spend his final year. And in this podcast episode, he did say, well, my final year or 2 or 3.
That's the other thing.
Are we going to be doing this every offseason? This needs to be it. If we're all dealing with this, I can't do this every year, dude.
Maybe throw Miami in there as well, just because it's Miami, and they have expressed interest. Giannis and Pat Riley and such have expressed interest in potentially adding another big piece. And as we know, if those guys get in a room, and if Pat Riley gets in a room with you in an offseason, there's a chance he can talk you into joining his team. So those are the 4. They are also the top 4 on the odds makers list, if you wanted some insight there.
But are we going to be doing this for another 3 off seasons? If we're going to do this song and dance where everyone in the league has to come kiss the ring and give them, give him their best bet, and then he's going to do the podcast round, then he's going to tease it. This needs to be it.
I don't think we'll be doing it multiple off seasons, because I think he'll sign, if he wants to play, he'll have like a player option. He'll have maybe a 2-year deal even. There is one thing, despite being corny, despite being silly in a lot of ways, there is one thing LeBron has been really consistent on in his career, and that is playing out his contracts. That is not only playing out his contracts, but he's never like gone somewhere and then left quickly. He's always had a stint, right? And if you believe it, he actually has spent more time with the Lakers than at any one stop in his career. Kind of wild to imagine, but that's the one consistent thread throughout his career, is that he doesn't just hop and move and skip around. He at least gives like a legitimate chance, a legitimate run, usually multi-year run at a particular spot. I don't think he's going to do this year in and year out. I think this is, I'm going to pick my final spot. If it's 1 year, if it's 2, if it's 3, my expectation would be that deal would be agreed to, not in an off season, because he wants to go win.
Yeah, if he really does want to go win, I do think it narrows the choice a little bit. And by the way, if he wants to go win, I actually don't think Golden State's the best option.
Yeah.
I think a lot of people, based off of what we saw in the Olympics with LeBron and Steph Curry went on Good Morning America to talk about the pitch he made for LeBron James to come play in Golden State. They bring back Porzingis. Can Jimmy Butler stay healthy? Is Draymond even worth it anymore? I think it's kind of interesting to consider all of these options. All right. Tim McMahon will join us. Tim will have some insight on this. He has been on SportsCenter a bunch to talk about this. We'll also get some Summer League from Tim. The Jazz have 15 players under contract after bringing in Josh Okogie and Mo Bamba. Are they done making deals? Darren Peterson, as far as his Summer League performance, and does the Walker Kessler trade draw a direct line to the Jazz extending Keontae George? So we'll talk to Tim coming up. And then the Open Championship got really interesting. Bryson DeChambeau was docked 2 shots in the Open for the penalty on the 5th hole where he appeared to improve his line, and then he threw a fit because he is a baby. Paul Pugmire will join us later on. 2 hours down, 2 hours to go. Keep it here on ESPN 700. He is Ban McMahon, and he has been a busy guy. See him on TV quite a bit. NBA offseason never rests. Summer League rolling along. Of course, the Utah Jazz. They're going to be in action tonight. Not sure who we're going to see. We'll let you know when we get the information. But let's bring in the legend himself on a Friday. Tim, happy Friday, man. How are you?
Howdy, partner. How you doing?
We're good, man. We're good here. Of course, there's a player named LeBron James that continues to dangle out an announcement to be made about his next destination. I saw you on SportsCenter. I think it was last night talking about this. What's the latest as far as the teams in the running, and how do you think this plays out?
Yeah, not really a late. I would say your guess is as good as mine. He's made a couple of appearances at Fan Fest, Fanatics Fest, whatever that is in New York, and not shed just a whole bunch of light on the whole situation. All the teams that have been in the running are still in the running. But we're waiting. Everybody's waiting. Adam Silver's waiting. He says the schedule's got to be made. Come on, LeBron.
Dari Noka is currently interviewing Dave McMenamin on ESPN, so that's where we're at as far as getting these updates. But when it comes to the comments you alluded to that we talked about earlier with the commissioner, do you think he's feeling any pressure to get this thing done, or do you think he's going to play it out as long as possible?
Is LeBron feeling pressure? Absolutely not. I think LeBron might be getting a little sense of satisfaction by the fact that the schedule has to be put on hold as he waits to announce his destination. My guess is he knows where he's going. He has decided. It's just about maximizing the splash at this point. I think it'll come out within the next week. I don't know that for sure. But, Adam Silver saying, please, LeBron, come on. I don't think that is causing a single glistening sweat on LeBron's brow.
If we take him at his word that he very much wants to win another championship, of the 5 teams that appear to be on the list, the Cavs, Heat, Sixers, Warriors, and Timberwolves, what do you think makes the most sense and why?
Well, it's interesting because you said 5 and not 6. The Nuggets were kind of the 6. I don't know if they've officially fallen out of the running or not, but that to me would give them the best chance of that bunch. I don't think that's likely. I've said all along that the full circle thing made the most sense to me, going back to Cleveland, going back home one more time. They got swept in the conference finals, but they were in the conference finals. They've got a core that, for the most part, has been together for a while. Obviously, Harden getting there mid-season last year being the exception there. But I think LeBron could step in and enhance that and not have to carry the franchise. But there wouldn't be I don't think it'd be a very complicated fit. I think the fit's complicated in Philadelphia. I think the fit's complicated in Miami. So I think Cleveland's the best story, and I also think it's his best chance to win.
Of course, he's the biggest name left out there. Are there any other notable decisions that will actually change things outside of LeBron going on right now?
I mean, depends on what you define as changing things. Peyton Watson's the biggest restricted free agent who's still out there. I believe he'll end up going back to Denver, but until it's done, you can't be certain. Benedict Mathurin with another restricted free agent with the Clippers. And then obviously the biggest piece of business is, one, what's the ruling on the aspiration investigation? And what does that mean as far as this trade that's been put on hold with Kawhi going to the Raptors? To me, it's insane that there's not a ruling yet. When Adam Silver stood there in front of the media before the start of the finals, doing that annual press conference, and basically says, the time's coming to wrap it up because not just the Clippers, but the rest of these teams need to know what they're working with, basically going into the offseason. A trade was agreed upon. This thing's still looming. And now we're saying, by the end of the offseason. Like, come on, dude. You've got an agreed upon trade. Time has come. Like, there's been plenty of time to investigate. You've either got the goods or you don't. I have a hard time believing you don't have something that's worthy of some level of discipline. So make a decision and allow the Clippers and more so the Raptors to decide what to do with it with the ruling. whether that's go forward with the trade as agreed upon, whether it's to, renegotiate, what's in the trade, specifically the draft compensation, or to blow it up. But that's the biggest piece of business outside of LeBron, obviously.
You have any idea what's holding this thing up? I mean, the commissioner just said it has to be, it has to end, the investigation has to end before the season starts. Well, of course it has to end before the season starts, but how long has this been going on? I can't even recall at this point. And to your point, at this juncture, it feels like they probably have to have some sort of lean. I don't know how much of this is being like investigated from the outside looking in, but what's the holdup with this entire Kawhi stuff?
Yeah, and look, he had an appropriate sense of urgency about getting this done before the off season when he talked to us over a month ago, and now it's like at some point before the season starts. That doesn't make sense. I don't know exactly what the holdup is, but my guess is there is a fear of going toe-to-toe with one of the richest men in the world if it becomes a legal battle.
Yeah. I guess that's a fair point. All right, let's move over to the piece you wrote and the sit-down you had that a lot of people around here gravitated towards with Will Hardy and Darren Peterson. Let's just start with your main takeaways now that you've had a chance. I mean, you've known Will for a long time, but now that you've had a good face-to-face with Darren Peterson, what were some of your impressions?
Yeah, I think he's a naturally quiet young man who, that can come across as being aloof. But, I think he's made clear, not just when he talked to me, but really since the second he was drafted, that he's excited about the opportunity. He's excited about not just being in the NBA, but being a part of the Jazz. And I think it's going to be very interesting to see how his relationships within that franchise develop. I think he wants to be coached hard by Will Hardy, and Will Hardy wants to earn his trust. And earning his trust doesn't mean, just buttering him up all the time, but it means, guiding him in the right direction. It means, giving him feedback and coaching that's going to help him get better. Certainly that's something that is a massive priority for Will. And then, I think it's very notable and very important how involved and eager that Keontae George has been basically since the moment that Darren Peterson arrived in Utah. That's going to be a partnership the Jazz hope for a very long time in the backcourt. He's wanted, and they knew each other a little bit before, just working with the same trainer. They are rep by the same agent. But Keontae has also made it a priority to do everything he can to make sure that Darren Peterson's in a position to hit the ground running as his rookie year starts.
The Ed Reed anecdote was hilarious. Share that with our listeners, if you will.
Yeah, and so the previous night after his second game in Salt Lake City Summer League, Darren Peterson had mentioned that Ed Reed clips were part of his film session with Will, and I'm like, so obviously I had to get to the bottom of that. So basically, like, what happened? Okay, so it turns out there's a term that the Jazz use and as part of their defensive jargon. It's called raving, and basically just means using your wingspan, arms extended as you're shifting defensively. But Will asked if that how much that term had come up while they're reviewing film of his summer league debut, and then that leads to a kind of the term is inspired by Ed Reed, who's one of Will's all-time favorite athletes. And then Will got a feeling that Peterson didn't really know what he was talking. So he says, "Do you know who Ed Reed is?" And Peterson gives him a look like, no. And so Will basically says, "Okay, we're going to put the Summer League film aside for a second." And they did a 10-minute YouTube deep dive on Ed Reed highlights. And now this was a bit of a risk, though, because Peterson, he didn't know who Ed Reed is. I looked it up. Ed Reed played his last down for the Ravens when Peterson was 5 years old, so I get it. But he's a Bengals fan. His dad grew up in Cincinnati, comes from a family of Bengals fans. And so he said, "Well, I'm a Bengals fan." I'm like, "Okay, you know how many picks Ed Reed probably had against the Bengals?" But, so Peterson, he acknowledged this. He said, okay. And Reed was nice, but he didn't want to give him too much props because his
Did we lose him? Tim?
You got me.
There we go. All right, we got him back. Yeah, I found that hilarious. It also made me feel very old. You also talked to him, and look, this is the second straight year that a draft pick has been made by Austin Ainge and the Jazz staff, where there was some noise about, does Ace Bailey want Washington? Based off of the video that was released. And Austin said, I don't care. We're taking him. And then there was this thing going around about, Darren only working out for Washington. And Austin said, I don't care. We think he's the best player. And I was told, just so you know, Tim, like when AJ went off the board at 1, it was put to me there's a lot of fist pumping in the Jazz draft room. I think this is the player they've wanted for a long, long time. But you also talked to Darren about the meetings he had with Will Hardy, and then Danny Ainge, Austin Ainge, Justin Zanuck, Avery Bradley traveling to sit down with Darren in his hometown to meet with him before the draft. What sort of insight can you share with that dynamic?
Yeah, and these are very different situations. Ace Bailey, and look, Ace was not getting the best advice in the world. I think that's become clear, and he parted ways with that quasi-agent pretty quickly. But at the time, he was listening to somebody who was trying to make sure he landed in Washington, which had the pick after the Jazz. The thing with Darren Peterson, he just wanted to be the number 1 overall pick. That's why he only worked out for Washington. It had nothing to do with the franchise. It had nothing against the Jazz. As he said, he was very comfortable during his combine interview with the Jazz, and that just increased, the level of comfort increased when that contingent went out and visited him in his hometown, Canton, Ohio, days before the draft. By the way, the only reason that Ryan Smith wasn't there and that Will Hardy wasn't there is because they were both at weddings, at separate weddings, or they both would have been part of that second meeting as well. But there was no no sense of him not wanting to be in Utah or him trying to avoid Utah. There was, he definitely silenced any sort of uncertainty that there might have been as soon as he was drafted and consistently since he's been drafted. Whereas, with Ace, there was at least several days of strangeness, I would say. But then, look, once Ace got to Salt Lake City, there's not been a single hiccup in terms of his commitment, in terms of his excitement and all that. It was honestly, it was a very unfortunate way for his NBA career to start because I felt like his reputation was kind of tarnished for no good reason, and and it didn't really reflect on the kind of kid that Ace Bailey is. So different situations, different circumstances there. But I think the similarities are they're both extremely talented young players who the Jazz are hoping to build around for a long time and are excited about the opportunities that they have in front of them.
What are some of the conversations? Of course, one of Tim's assignments is the Hoop Collective podcast with Brian Windhorst. And so I know you guys have been talking a lot about Darren Peterson and this rookie class. And, we do have some Summer League data. I'm always hesitant to learn much of anything with Summer League, but, it's always bad when your high draft pick at least doesn't play well. And Darren has played well, albeit in Summer League. So what are some of the things you're hearing around the NBA ecosystem about the potential of Darren Peterson?
Well, look, he's also been playing out of position. He's not a point guard. He can share the ball handling and share the initiation responsibilities, but he's not a pure point guard. And so, like some of the turnover stuff, I wouldn't sweat that too much. But the consensus is this guy's going to be a big-time bucket getter right away. I mean, he's going to walk in the league probably averaging 20-plus points per game. He's got the ability to score at all three levels. He's got the ability to create a ton of space. He's a big guard. He's athletic. He's a mega talent. Now, this was hyped up for a long time as an absolutely loaded draft, especially at the top of the draft, and certainly nobody's opinion has changed, after whatever's been a couple of weeks of Summer League. I mean, DeBonsa put on, some pretty good shows. in Vegas. Boozer looks like a guy who's going to stuff the box score. And then Caleb Wilson, he's a competitor who's obviously put a lot of work in on his shot. And he's a big, athletic kid who, he's got face the franchise potential in Chicago. So I think it's going to be a fun Rookie of the Year race. And I think, all four of the teams at the top got a guy who can be a face of the franchise type of player.
You had referenced Keontae really being involved and being around, and there was a story where the Jazz had hoped that Keontae would actually be able to kind of be on the bench in a quasi-assistant coaching role for a game during Summer League. The NBA squashed that, Tim. Can you help us understand why?
Yeah, and honestly, I think this is a deal where maybe some people got ahead of themselves thinking that it had been approved by the NBA when it hadn't been. But apparently people have tried to do this in the past. The NBA's protocol is that it's not allowed. Now, there was a deal, and I forgot who it was. Oh, Derek White with Boston apparently did coach.
Yep.
So I don't know. I'll be honest with you. I haven't asked about that. My guess is he just did it and didn't ask permission, and maybe the Celtics will have to ask forgiveness. I don't know what happened there, but it was made pretty clear that it wasn't allowed by the NBA when it came to Keontae George. And look, it looked sloppy. It wasn't a great look, but it also wasn't that big of a deal, to be honest with you.
Ultimately, with all of the talk about a Keontae Darren backcourt, it does feel like most people should expect them to be the starting backcourt on opening night. Yeah, and if that's the case, is it Ace Bailey coming in off the bench?
I believe so. I think you're looking at something's going to have to go wrong for Darren Peterson not to be in the starting lineup on opening night and for the next however long he's in Utah, which they hope will be 15 years or so, right? The plan is absolutely for him to be the starting two guard on opening night, and then you're going to have a big front court. Lowry's going to be your 3. Jaren Jackson Jr. is going to be your 4. Nurk is going to be your 5. And look, I know you're going to have people say, well, why not put your 5 best players out there? Why not start Jaren at the 5 and get Ace in there at the 3? And the very short answer there is because Jaren Jackson Jr. is not a 5. He might be able to give you some spot minutes at the 5, and there might be situations where, say, Filipowski's in the game, and that kind of, can mitigate some rebounding concerns because you've got, some size in there alongside him if Lowry's playing the 3. But Jaren Jackson Jr. is not going to start at center for the Utah Jazz. I'm just going to tell you that right now, and that means that Ace Bailey's likely the odd man out of the starting lineup and will be coming off the bench.
I got a kick out of this portion of the piece you wrote because, I don't know, a few weeks ago I got a text from a friend. It said, dude, I think I just saw Darren Peterson walking his dog in downtown Salt Lake City, Utah. I was like, apparently, this is kind of his deal. He doesn't seem to be the type of guy that wants to go out all the time. Does it feel like he's maybe a little bit of like an introvert? And what did he tell you about his pup?
I mean, there's no little bit. Like, he's acknowledged that he's he called himself antisocial, and that kind of came out the wrong way. But yeah, he's introverted. The guy wants to hoop, and he wants to hang out with his dog. I asked Keontae, hey, have you been able to show him around Salt Lake City a whole lot? He's like, no, I just, he showed him all around the practice facility. But other than that, Darren Peterson wants to go walk his dog. That's what he wants to do. He says he wants to be dad of the year, pup dad of the year. But he's not a complicated guy. I mean, the good news is, if you're worried about somebody not liking a small market, it's not going to be the dude who just wants to walk his dog and be left alone outside of the gym. But yeah, he's just a dude who his dog's name is Denim, like jeans. And he just wants to chill with Denim. That's all.
So DraftKings Sportsbook released their over-unders for the upcoming season, Tim. And look, even with Walker Kessler, I was kind of the same mindset that you were. Like, let's just kind of calm down a little bit. They're going to take a step forward. We all know that. But no Walker Kessler does affect who they will be this year. And hopefully long-term it looks a little bit different. But 34.5 wins and 11th in the West feels a little low to me. What about you?
probably a little bit low. But man, like the West is going to be tough. I mean, tell me the teams that were in the playoffs that you see really tumbling. I mean, the Clippers didn't make the playoffs. I guess you could say you could see the Clippers taking a tumble. They were a play-in team, but it's going to be tough to even crack the play-in in the West. Again, to me, a successful season for the Jazz would be getting into the high 30s, low 40s, having a chance, playing meaningful games towards the end of the season, which, even if that means like putting yourself in a position to play a play-in game, playing games that mean something late in the season, that would be a successful step forward season for the Jazz.
All right, moving away from the Jazz before I say you lose, what happened with Bam and Tyler Hero? Like, how did that all go down, and what was behind all of that?
Well, what was behind all that is there was obviously some friction between those guys last season. Tyler Hero was, yapping about Bam on social media. One, he did publicly, like he posted a thing of the least efficient volume mid-range shooters in the league, and Bam was on there. So was Giannis. It's kind of a passive-aggressive little shot there. And then some dude like posted screenshots of Tyler Hero basically bad-mouthing Bam in the DMs. And Bam felt a certain way about it. They see each other in Vegas. Bam went up, and there was some sort of blow from Bam to Tyler Hero's face. I got to assume it wasn't a haymaker because I'm looking at Bam and I'm looking at Tyler Hero, and I don't think Tyler Hero is showing up to some league the next day if Bam, hits him with a roundhouse and gets a solid shot in. I'm assuming it was maybe some sort of a jab or just a little love tap to let him know. But they had beef, and the league has decided not to do anything about it. Hero just wanted to move on. If the league decided not to do anything about it, it's interesting to me, though. That one's kind of interesting because, like, I guess Beef Stew had a history. Bam doesn't have a history of this kind of thing. But, like, Beef Stew got suspended when he, dotted up old Drew Eubanks in the, and it wasn't even in the tunnel, like in the back hallway of the arena 2 or 3 years ago. But, yeah, I think if teammates got beef, I've suggested this. I think they should have boxing matches at halftime of summer league games between former teammates that have beef. Can you imagine the pay-per-view revenue generated if they do these things? I'm just telling you, like, if I'm here to try to help, because it's my idea, I will take 1% of the pay-per-view revenue generated from those things, and I will retire very happily. I can promise you that.
Alonzo Mourning, Larry Johnson. I know they're both like 70, but let's start there.
Ooh, no. I'd be scared of that.
That's you've come up with a lot of ideas in your time, Tim. That one is gold. I'm very impressed. Look, we'll set you loose. Thanks for the time. Travel safe, okay?
I appreciate you, brother.
All right. Tim McMahon covers the Utah Jazz and covers the NBA for ESPN. He's been a busy boy all over the place. Some good stuff there on a really good Darren Peterson piece he wrote. You can find that link up on his Twitter page at Band McMahon is where you find him. Stops by today courtesy of our friends at the Stansbury Park Golf Course. I would encourage you to explore Tooele County, and this is sponsored by our friends at Tooele County as well. If you haven't played Stansbury Park Golf Course yet, what are you doing this weekend? Everyone's talking about Tooele County's historic golf course, Stansbury Park Golf Course, and for good reason. It's the perfect combo of challenge, pace, and price. Water on almost every hole, greens that roll true, and a layout that keeps you focused and fired up. And get this, you can actually play a full round there without spending your whole day there. No long waits, no overpriced green fees, just pure golf. Play 18 holes for only $45 on weekdays and $50 on weekends. It's right off I-80, super easy to get to, and a great reason to explore Tooele County. Whether you're a weekend warrior or just need to escape the office grind, this is your place. Grab your crew, your clubs, and maybe a few extra balls. Trust me on that one. Book now and experience Tooele County golf at its best, then stick around and explore Tooele County while you're there. Stansbury Park Golf, great rates, gorgeous greens, all just minutes away. Totally worth it. Book your tee time now at stansburypark.gov/golf course. That's stansburypark.gov/golf course, sponsored by Tooele County. All right, we need to give away some Zach Bryan tickets. We'll do that next with Paul Pugmire. You got to listen to the interview. At the end of the interview, I'll ask you a question, and then you text in to win. Also give you a Uinta Golf PGA update. There's a video surfacing of Bryson DeChambeau telling a rules official that he is refusing to play tomorrow after this man baby was docked 2 shots. Paul Pugmire's next on ESPN 700. All right, we're going to give away some Zach Bryan tickets at the end of this segment, so you need to listen to the Paul Pugmire interview, and we will ask you a question based off an answer that Paul gives us throughout the course of the next few minutes. Open Championship is going on. It's a big week in local golf, women's state am. A lot to do on a Friday. Paul Pugmire, how are you, sir?
Doing great. Spence, how about you?
I'm well. We missed you at Media Day for the women's am. What happened there?
Yeah, oh man, just life gets complicated sometimes. I'm so bummed I couldn't make it.
I'm sorry. Did I hear? Did you ask who won the gross portion of the tournament?
That's what I was asking.
Oh.
Was it you, I hope?
Yeah, I thought that. Yeah, I mean, since you asked, I wasn't going to bring it up, but yeah, it was me, Paul.
Go Spence. Good job, man.
Nope. I'm under protest right now. Easton, if you're listening, he's aware of the protest because there's no trophy like there is for the men's media day, and so I'm protesting.
Do it because I've won that a couple times. We should have a trophy.
You know, you didn't have to flex, Paul. I mean, can we celebrate my win instead of talking about your wins, please?
My whole point is that I want to be on a trophy with you.
Okay. There you see, look, you're just too nice for me to even talk any smack to you. All right. Bryson DeChambeau was docked 2 shots because he's a baby. That's not why he was docked 2 shots. But there's now a video that has surfaced, Paul, of Bryson threatening to pull out of the tournament because of what happened today in the Open Championship at Royal Birkdale in Southport, England, where the Open is being played, of course. Walk us through this entire deal, and do you think Bryson really has it in him to not show up and play tomorrow?
I would be shocked if he doesn't show up, but then again, Bryson has the capacity to do shocking things. The situation is both remarkably simple and amazingly odd, all at the same time. So they're playing the par 4 fifth hole, a gettable par 4 designed and set up to be exactly that, to go to a player into hitting a driver and going for a green with trouble around the green. In what world does Bryson DeChambeau not take on that shot? So he hits it, and he misses it right, pretty wide right. I mean, beyond Buffalo, wide right. And he's out there in the fescue, and we've talked about how the fescue is a feature of Royal Birkdale, but it's mostly been neutered because it's so dry. But he found a place where the fescue was healthy and where it, for some reason, got some water. And he goes over there, and then the crucial moment when he's finding the ball and he's stepping up to it, he goes around behind where the ball is, and he backs up and steps on the fescue grass and knocks it over and bends it down. And the R&A, the Royal and Ancient Golf Club of St. Andrews, that is the rules body, not only for Scotland and Britain, not only for the Open Championship, but for the rest of the world, other than the United States, they ruled that as improving the conditions of his lie, improving the conditions of play, and they assessed him a 2-stroke penalty. And that's what DeChambeau is complaining about, that he didn't think that he should be assessed the penalty. His argument is that it didn't change the shot he would play. But the R&A isn't having that. The R&A is saying, nope, whether, regardless of your intention in what you did there, you knocked the grass down around your ball. It is improving the conditions of your shot, and they assessed him a penalty. So that's where we are.
Was the ruling the right ruling?
Yes,
Okay.
absolutely. No, I would have given him that penalty in a New York minute. And it's one of those things where nobody's surprised here. We've known this rule since we were kids, and there's 100 ways that you break a rule and you're assessed a penalty outside of your intention. When you hit it out of bounds, do you intend to do that? No. You go into a, let's say, heavy grass situation, and you're scrunched around there looking for it, and you cause the ball to move. Do you intend to do that? No. And yet you move the ball. It's a penalty. We know in those situations it's a penalty. There's no shame in having a penalty. We all get them. His reaction to it is not very grown up.
That's because he's not grown up, Paul. It's because he's a baby.
Yeah.
He's always been a baby.
Yeah, there's a little bit of that. There's no doubt.
All right, another just brutal scene. When I was tuned in a little bit earlier, Jordan Spieth missed 3 putts within 3 feet and missed the cut. I mean, my goodness, just a rough scene for Jordan.
Oh, it is, and Jordan is a shadow of the player he used to be. Now, look, I still think he's a Lock Hall of Famer. He's got a record that puts him there. But he accomplished it so early, not only in his career, but in his life. And it's been a struggle. Jordan has not been Jordan for quite some time. And I think the rabbit hole he went down that knocked him out of who he actually is he was trying to be too perfect. His swing never has been approaching perfect. It's always been artwork. And he's chased distance, and chasing distance has hurt a lot of people. Jordan just isn't the same guy who authored and who created one of the most magical tournament wins in the history of the game on this very golf course. The last time this tournament was played here, when Jordan became the Open champion at Royal Birkdale in 2017, it's just not been the same since.
Let me go back to Bryson for one more quick thing. He's 3 off the lead. Go get some sleep, dude, and come back and play again. It's not like the 2-stroke penalty put him in danger of missing the cut. He's 3 off the lead and still carded a 68. I don't know.
He's in it.
Yeah, go get some food, chill out, come back and play tomorrow.
Yeah, and he's playing well. Good land. Take the penalty away. He shot 66 today. Put it back in. He shot 68. 68's a dang good score. Yeah, he is in the mix. He is absolutely within striking distance, especially because most of the people around him do not have experience walking the crucible successfully, of walking through the other side of the firestorm that is a major championship. DeChambeau's done it twice. He knows how to do it. They don't. I actually think he's in a dang good spot. Go play golf, dude. Go win this thing.
So I buried the lead because I really enjoy the history lessons you can give us, so we understand both the magnitude of what the Open Championship is by itself, and then this historic track in Southport, England, Royal Birkdale Golf Club. I owe you an apology because I saw I missed a text from you. So it sounds like you have been getting 0 sleep while watching this tournament. Tell us about it.
Well, what I texted you is that it's the best week of the year for morning people. Mm-hmm. You get up early and watch the British Open on TV. It's just a little slice of heaven. Royal Birkdale is one of the greatest championship courses in the world. Its history is nearly unmatched in almost any measure. But let's just take a moment and review the players who have won on this course and 2 characteristics they share. Padraig Harrington, multiple major winner, Hall of Fame. Mark O'Meara, multiple majors, Hall of Fame. Tom Watson, multiple majors, Hall of Fame. Johnny Miller, Lee Trevino, Arnold Palmer, Peter Thompson, multiple majors, Hall of Fame. Jordan Spieth, multiple majors, will be Hall of Fame. When you put together a list like that of winners on this course, it defines that this course is a place that brings out the best of the best and on which the cream rises. Royal Birkdale is a special, special place.
Did I see something that it may have not been this track? Maybe it's a different track for the Open Championship, but Tiger once upon a time played 4 rounds without finding a bunker.
Yes, absolutely. And it was one of those, and he's not alone in what I'm going to say next. There have been several Open Championship winners who have done this, but it was one of those weeks where he only hit the driver like 3 times or 4 times. Nicklaus used to do that. Watson's done it. He just said, I'm going to not hit into the bunkers. If I can stay on grass, I can compete. He did it, and he won. And yeah, now it wasn't at Birkdale, but it was at Hoy Lake. But it was a superlative performance, almost unimaginable. But except Tiger,
Sure. Have you played this golf course before?
I have not. No.
What?
Really want to.
We found one.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, there's several. There are too many.
Yeah, because I always want to get your take on like what a 10 handicap would do on a course like this.
Well, boy, in an open setup, 100 is in play. It is tough. It's one of these courses, especially when the fairways are running like they are now. Although I've got to say, I'm disappointed that the RNA has given the greens so much to drink. I hope they won't going into the weekend now that the field's cut and they won't have the traffic on them as much.
Sorry, go ahead.
Oh, but anyway, when the fairways are running, it just makes all of those fairway bunkers exponentially more in play because everything funnels to them.
What's the most challenging part? Is it, I mean, outside of all of it, right? Let's put that aside. Is it the greens when they're rolling? Like, what's the most challenging part of a track like this?
Starts with just the wind. Linksland course means by definition it's on the ocean, and the wind has been laying down for the most part this week so far, and as a result, the playing scoring conditions have been pretty favorable. The playing conditions have been rather benign, but when the fairways are fast and the wind is up, that's when it just gets so incredibly difficult to keep the ball in play and then to control where it's going.
So before we move on to some other things, we always like to kind of kick the tires on the current leaderboard going into the weekend. And, a couple of 62s out there were found, one by American Sam Burns and the other by Lucas Herbert. So Lucas is in the lead. He's 2 strokes clear. And then you've got some major talent trailing him. Cam Young, 6 under. So how far back are you willing to go with this leaderboard as far as players still in the mix to win the thing?
Well, you know how normally we start this conversation with 5 back, and we should do that again here. But here I want to expand it because of who these players are that are 6 back and 7 back. I mean, look at the names you've got there. You've got a Scheffler, you've got McIlroy, you've got players who have proven they can do this. And that just matters. I mean, good land. Patrick Reed's name sneaks up in there as well. Now, generally, statistically over time, Patrick Reed is not a strong enough driver of the ball to say, hey, he's the one who's going to climb over the weekend. But you have a guy with a superlative short game, so that always shines through at a British Open because everybody will miss greens. They will hit shots that go into the green, look good for a minute, and then find some awful place. And it's the players who can extract from that, make par, and go to the next hole who are going to be in the mix on Sunday afternoon.
Okay, so let's move away now from the Open Championship and focus on a little local stuff. So I've got the UGA website up right now. U.S. Amateur Final Qualifying is the headline. What's going on today?
Well, that was a couple days ago, and recently graduated BYU player Tyson Shelley qualified for his 3rd U.S. Am in a row. It's a pretty remarkable accomplishment. But he did it, and so he is going to Marion. It's in Ardmore, Pennsylvania. It's the site of Justin Rose's U.S. Open. It's the site where Ben Hogan won the U.S. Open after coming back from his car accident. It's a great old-school golf course. And so Tyson Shelley on his way to Ardmore, Pennsylvania for the U.S. Amateur. 3rd year in a row. Pretty impressive stuff.
What about my guy Steele? I see Steele DeWalt is on the list.
Yeah. So Steele qualified as well. 4 people qualified, and Steele was number 2. But Tyson was the medalist. But Tyson gets an invitation. Steele gets an invitation. So he'll be going back, and a couple others. A guy from Colorado, but also one of our other local guys. And I don't have it up in front of me, and I'm blanking right now.
I see a Peter Kim and a Jackson Moss as the alternates.
Yeah. So and what's interesting there, a couple of BYU players And so if somebody drops out, then Peter Kim will be the one who gets the call.
Is Jackson Moss the brother of the kid who won the State Am?
Sure is.
Oh, wow.
And so Bowen Moss is playing at Arizona State University. Jackson Moss is playing at Brigham Young, two top-tier Division I programs. These kids can play the game.
So we should congratulate 19 years old, Bowen Moss, Arizona State golfer. So just give us a quick review of the State Am that was finished last week.
So Bowen Moss won his second State Am in a row. He won last year at Logan Country Club. He won this year at Soldier Hollow. And interesting path to this year's State Am title. He actually was kind of mediocre in the stroke play portion of it. He came out of that as a number 49 seed, but sometimes those seed pathways can end up being a little more advantageous. And so he didn't have matches that really worked him until he got to the quarterfinals. But boy, howdy, he had a match in the quarterfinals, a match that a lot of people were saying should have been the final, and that's between Bowen Moss and David Lichty. That went 19 holes, and it was a slugfest throughout all 19 holes, but ultimately Bowen Moss emerged victorious in that. And then in the semifinals, he makes it through the semifinals and gets to the final against an unlikely finalist, 38-year-old mid-am named Cam Crawford. Now, Cam's a good player who has been playing well. He has been in form. But the State Am is set up on purpose to be a physically grueling examination. And I really think at the end of the day, Cam just didn't have enough in the tank to deal with a 36-hole final against Bowen Moss, and Bowen won it decisively 9-7.
What's the format for the National Am tournament?
Same thing that we're doing here in Utah, which is very much to Utah's credit that they're doing it. Not all states do. As a matter of fact, very few states do. But it is the most stern examination of any format. It is the format that I think asks more of its champion than any format. And it is that once you get your way into the field, which is frequently very, very hard, that's why it's such a thing that Tyson Shelley got himself into the field here 3 years in a row at the USAM. Once you get into the field, it's 36 holes of stroke play, and then the top 64, and no ties, they play it off. The top 64 make a 64-player bracket, and then you've got to survive the gauntlet that is a 64-player bracket. And if you're thinking that's kind of like March Madness and the NCAA basketball tournament, you're exactly right. However, I would note that they took it from golf, but good on them. But then you've got to work your way through this bracket, and where it really gets tough is for the last 3 days, there's 2 rounds a day. So you'd play round of 32 in the morning, round of 16 in the afternoon. You'd go on, you play the quarterfinals in the morning, semifinals in the afternoon. You go on, the final match is 36 holes scheduled. So 3 days in a row, 2 rounds a day against the sternest, most highly qualified competition. This format asks more of its champion and shows more in its champion when it's all said and done.
I probably could look this up, but since it's a radio show and you're my guest, I'll just ask you. When it comes to past winners of the United States, amateur tournament, I would imagine among the biggest and best names that went on to be pros. Yeah.
Absolutely. Yes, absolutely. Now, there are a few in there whose careers, whose competitive lives peaked as a U.S. amateur champion, and good on them. What a great accomplishment. But you look back over the great players in the game, and most of them have won a U.S. amateur along the way. And there are a couple of lists on this that I think are really fun. First of all, there are 3 players who have won the U.S. Amateur, the U.S. Open, and the NCAA Championship, and they are Tiger Woods, Jack Nicklaus, and Bryson DeChambeau. But it's lists like that. There's a handful of players who have won the U.S. Amateur and the U.S. Open on the same course. Matt Fitzpatrick did it. Julie Inkster did it on the women's side. A bit of an anomaly, but kind of fun to see. But you look back over the great players in the pro game, and many of them won U.S. amateurs along the way.
What does so let's say if you win the U.S. Amateur or finish in the top whatever, what are the benefits of winning or finishing in the top whatever line you have to in order to reap some benefits?
First of all, you're a USGA champion for the rest of your life, and how cool is that? so no matter what, you've always got that going for you. Immediately, the semifinalists in the USAM get invited to the Masters. So that's pretty cool that you get a chance to go stay in the crow's nest and tee it up at Augusta the next year. If you retain your amateur status, if you turn pro in the interim, you forego that invitation, and you get invited back to the USAM the next year.
Okay. All right. Well,
and if you win, you get to go play in the U.S. Open. So that's cool too.
So if you win it, you get to play in the U.S. Open, and then there are a certain number of players that get invited to the Masters.
Uh-huh.
Okay. All right. Well, let's move over. So this week it will be the ladies' turn. And even though you ditched us, we had a good time at Oak Ridge. And I played with Arden Lockheim. It was really fun. Yeah. She's, of course, she's the daughter of jazz radio voice play-by-play David Locke. And what an impressive young lady. I mean, yeah, she's a really good player, but she's going to follow in Dad's footsteps. She wants to be a broadcaster. She's doing some things with the baseball team here and, played college golf in Nebraska. And yeah, I was just really impressed with her, and she won it last year. Tell me about Arden.
Arden Lockheim's one of my favorite people in the Utah game, and I'm really glad you got to play her because everything you said about her is true and more. There are just very few people as young as she is who have her feet on the ground and have themselves grounded. I'll say it again, as much as Arden Lockheim does, and she obviously a really terrific player. She won the Utah Am last year. She's coming back to defend her title, although she is not as deeply into the game of golf as she has been. On the competitive side, she is preparing for a career as a broadcaster. She's doing play-by-play for the Ogden Raptors now and having a great time doing that. She will be on our radio show on Utah Golf Radio tomorrow morning, and we're looking forward to talking to her as we head into her defense of the Utah State Am Championship.
Give me some other names of some competitors along with Arden who could go win this thing.
Grace Summerhays is coming back. Grace to play in this again. Grace is a former champion, so Grace and Arden both will be playing in this as former champions. Berlin Long, who is Arden's best friend, and also one of the top players in the state. She will be in the field, and you got to take her seriously, along with her younger sister Arden Long. I'm saying Arden Lockheim, pardon me. Aiden Long. Both the Long sisters are top tier players. They will be in the mix. Plus Whitney Bands, who plays at Brigham Young, and she just recently qualified for the men's state am, and she teed it up and let it fly there. I'd also keep my eye on Sydney Richards. Sydney is in the Summerhays family. And she's just coming out of a college career in Virginia and coming back home, and a real strong player. I expect to see Sydney Richards make some noise.
Would you be so bold as to give us a prediction?
If she's in form, it's got to be Grace Summerhays.
Oh, okay. Who is, I should know this name, but apparently there's a player in the field that has won this thing 1 million times. Who is that?
Okay, that would be Kelsey Chugg.
Okay.
And look, Kelsey has won it 6 times. In addition, she has won the U.S. Mid-Am Championship, so she is one of these USGA champions that I mentioned earlier. In addition to winning it once, she's been a finalist in the U.S. Mid-Am 2 other times. Nobody in Utah amateur golf, man or woman, currently playing has a record that approaches Kelsey Chugg's. Kelsey has not been playing much this year. Now, until somebody beats Kelsey, nobody's beat Kelsey. and the reality is, especially in a match play format where Kelsey has superhuman powers, until somebody beats her, she is the one you have to be watching. She just has not played yet this year, and so I don't have any idea what her form is like. But if she is in form, somebody's got to beat Kelsey Chugg. And in that field, the only player who ever has beat Kelsey is Grace Summerhays. She beat Kelsey in a State Am final 4 or 5 years ago.
Is the format the same for the women as it is for the men?
Close. It's one round of stroke play and then a 32-player bracket. But other than those two differences, it is the same. Notably, that includes a 36-hole scheduled final. And so the final will be an endurance test for whoever makes it there.
Course is in great shape. The greens are ridiculous. I mean, you know, I'm not playing. I'm not grinding on the city courses when I'm at Oak Ridge, man. Those greens are wild.
They'll go where you putt it. So if you miss it, it's your fault.
And with just a rude thing like you did at the beginning, Paul, it's fine. All right, what's coming up on the show tomorrow? I'll tell you what's not coming up on the show tomorrow. An interview with the winner of the Media Gross event at the Media Day. That's not coming up, but what is coming up?
Well, we're going to be talking to Arden. Like I said, we'll be at the Utah Golf Expo, which has it went away for a few years, but it's coming back. That'll be a lot of fun. We'll be talking about that. We will be reviewing the men's State Am, as we mentioned, Bowen Moss won for the second time in a row, and we will be previewing the women's State Am. We'll be doing that with Randy Dodson of Fairways Magazine.
There will be no mention of the media member who won the Gross Media Tournament.
We're going to talk about it a lot when I'm talking to Randy. That's what we'll talk about.
I think he won the net. So there's that.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Good to know.
So don't let him dominate the storylines, okay? There's a gross winner too, not just a net winner. Remember that.
I absolutely will.
Thank you, Paul.
All right, thanks, Spence.
All right, Paul Pugmire. All right, who wants to go see Zach Bryan? 877-353-0700. I forgot to ask him a question. I don't know. Send in your favorite golfer. Porter's going to pick whoever he wants. 877-353-0700. Just text in your favorite golfer. We are going to send you to see Zach Bryan at Rice-Eccles Stadium coming up on August the 7th. Time now for a quick You Into Golf PGA update. You Into Golf by Worldwide Golf. Visit in-store for a free custom fitting at You Into Golf or shop online at worldwidegolf.com. Get there. In case you missed it, Bryson DeChambeau was docked 2 shots for improving his lie at the Open Championship earlier. He's now threatening to not play because he is a child. Lucas Herbert is your leader at 8 under par. Cam Young, Ryan Gerard, Jackson Stuber at 6 under. Here's the wild part. Bryson's at 5 under. He's 3 back. He could go win this thing. Sam Burns, Siwoo Kim, Matt Wallace, Alex Fitzpatrick, and Tommy Fleetwood, 4 under par. So there you go. All right, 3 hours down, 1 hour to go. Final hour of the program on a Friday afternoon comes your way next on ESPN 700. All right, wrapping it up. Final segment of the show for both the day and the week. Been a pretty wild week. Tell you what, a lot going on. Some technical difficulties on the program. Had a tough time getting on air yesterday at Brighton, but we figured it out. I'm telling you, we had some lightning strikes that were like problematic.
I was watching up there. Yeah, it was a real storm.
Real storm. Felt good, about 72 degrees, but we were right by the ski lift for the Women's Disc National Championship. Learned a lot about disc golf yesterday, by the way. So we were a little delayed getting on air, but we made that work. So, yeah, a lot going on, though, of course. So, I don't know if you've been following this, and I don't really know much about Matt Miller. I really don't. So he's Matt Miller is a draft analyst for ESPN. I probably had seen him. I don't really watch ESPN's draft coverage. I don't think it's great. The NFL Network does a much better job. I used to love Mike Mayock, and then he took the job with the Raiders, and now Mayock does some work with our friends at Sumer, right?
Yes,
yeah,
correct.
Yeah, so they do a really good job. But, I mean, Porter's a huge Mel Kiper guy. That's been established. Just kidding. So maybe I had seen Matt Miller once or twice on ESPN. Have you been following this story?
Crazy.
It is wild.
Crazy story. As far as the draft analyst goes, there's a reason I've never had or attempted to get Matt on the show, because I think he has garnered a career based off of, well, we're finding out more and more that a lot of it is kind of grifting, but also he just was the first guy to get the Twitter handle NFL Draft Scout, which he isn't or wasn't. And his draft coverage is not great, I don't think. I don't think he's a great analyzer of football talent, but he has really good relationships with and knows a lot of people around the league, and kind of coasted on that for a long time. And then stuff got a little loose, and that's the story you're alluding to.
Yeah, so if you're not paying attention to this, again, as I always say, you probably have a life, so congratulations. Oftentimes, I'm wondering what I've done with my life when I'm reading articles about Matt Miller, a draft analyst for ESPN. But on June 17th, just before 4 o'clock, Matt Miller drifted over the double yellow dividing line of a two-lane Missouri Route 96 and smashed his Ford Bronco into a semi-truck. And the force of the crash seared the seatbelt that he was wearing. He was thrown from the vehicle and then airlifted to the hospital, where he underwent life-saving operations. And the way The Athletic is describing it is that he said included the amputation of his left arm. They're not even reporting that happened. They're saying he said that. So after that, Matt Miller shared on his X account a link to a GoFundMe page to raise money for his recovery. And the responses included both wishes for a speedy return to health and then some suggestions that this was his latest ruse. As of yesterday, $51,000 from hundreds of donations spilled in. But as a result of the attention that got, what's been revealed is for years, Matt Miller apparently has been running fraudulent fantasy football leagues where he gets buy-ins from just random fans of his on social media or on ESPN. And a bunch of people are claiming that they either were never paid their winnings or they had to badger him for like months to get him to pay the winnings. And then as The Athletic, of course, it's The Athletic because it's excellent reporting. He's also alleged to have started a bunch of nonprofits and charities that really, at this point, we're not even sure if they're real. So there's been an investigation launched into this. The Athletic always does a great job, and I'll send you to their article instead of just continuing to quote it. But I don't even know how to feel about it. Like, if this dude almost died and lost an arm, I mean, obviously that's horrifically sad, and there's a tremendous amount of irony that as a result of a GoFundMe page that he posted on his Twitter, now all of this stuff is being revealed. Look, my take on this stuff is well documented. I hate the fraudulent nature of some of these grifters that steal money from well-intentioned people. the AlphaCon bros, like that dude, I'm glad he's in jail. Like anyone who takes advantage of people and straight up steals money under the guise of whatever. I think it's such a disgusting part of the American culture. And of course, it can be directed up to the highest office in the land right now. So it's unbelievably irritating that anybody would do this. But I don't really even know how to feel about it because there's so many layers.
No, yeah, super complicated. And of course, the part about him nearly dying and that is completely separate from, I think, it's hard to separate entirely because he started a GoFundMe, received a bunch of funds. It's part of his recovery. Like that's one thing. But yeah, I mean, I hope the guy heals and is somewhat able to resume a normal life on that end of it. But I also hope he's kind of held accountable to the full extent of the law, because it's becoming more and more clear that while these are just alleged at the moment, there are a lot of people with very legitimate grievances against Matt. There are charities that he has announced, and I mean, I see it almost, going back years and years, following his account, where he's posting charities and auctions and things with signed footballs and jerseys and all of the like. And then you find out that this charity that I've been seeing him running for years isn't a thing, didn't exist, isn't registered with the state of Missouri. And all the while he's opening a bar, he's buying 3 new cars, he's doing all these things. It just, it smells bad. And like I said, on the personal level, hopefully he's able to make a full recovery from the horrific accident. But also that doesn't absolve you of, facing the maker.
Yeah, I find the language The Athletic is using so interesting. They're saying like he claims he lost his arm,
which the police reports out there, you can go look. It was awful, but at the same time, I mean, unless you're in the room with the guy at this point, he's kind of crying wolf. I don't have any doubt that that all happened, but you can't necessarily go for it unless you have the source on it.
Well, I'm no doctor, but losing an arm, like if he did, we'll probably be able to find that out. Like when he is in public, and if he doesn't have an arm, it means he was telling the truth. And if he does, what if
that side of it?
What if he shows up with 2 arms? Like, it's not funny. I shouldn't be laughing. Anyway, I will send you to The Athletic. Just search Matt Miller, Athletic, New York Times. It's up on the intrawebs. All right, let's get out of here. Let's get our weekend started. You guys do the same. Happy Friday. Hope you have something fun planned. It's supposed to be a nice weather weekend, and take advantage of that. Porter, what is coming up on a Monday edition of The Drive?
Monday edition of the program, Pablo Mastroeni reacts to the World Cup final and talks RSL back in action. Bill Riley stops by the program. We'll chat with Dave McMiniman for the NBA Daily Assist. Hey, maybe we'll know where LeBron's going, and we'll go from there. Maybe some golf chat on a Monday, depending on how the weekend goes as well.
Yeah, we got Open Championship over the weekend. We have the World Cup final on Sunday. NBA Summer League, if that's your deal. Of course, Major League Baseball. So fun weekend ahead. Hope you guys enjoy it. We will say goodnight. Special thank you to Andy Larson, Garth Lagerway, Tim McMahon, and Paul Pugmire for any of the sound that you missed from the show today. Go to the website, which is ESPN700sports.com. Don't download our mobile app and take us on the go. And then check out the podcast page, 2 of them for you. Reality Check with Spence Checketts, and, of course, The Drive with Spence Checketts, both available wherever you get your pods. Subscribe to them, rate them, review them. If you say nice things and give us all the stars, you will be eternally blessed. For Porter, I'm Spence saying goodnight. Have a great weekend. Be good to yourself. Be good to each other. We'll talk to you on a Monday Drive. You can catch it right here